What's up, everyone? We have such a good class planned for today. It's going to be so bomb, mainly because I don't have to teach. So this is awesome. I'm going to sit down, just ask questions, be one of you guys, and learn as much as I can. I am bringing in, this is my good buddy. Come and stand up here. This is Ethan Sigmund. Let's give him a round of applause. I love that you give him a round of applause. You don't even know who he is. You're just like, he's got cool hair, so fine, I'll give you a round of applause. Brigham likes him, so he's probably an interesting dude. We met a couple of years ago, and we've been friends for a long time. My background is for the past 10 years, I have been hyper-focused on Google. In fact, I'm just like, if there's something, I know more about Google than most Google reps when they talk to me. I feel like I like any kind of Google account, I know I can destroy it. Like I've taken things like Vivint, for example, who had a full team of people working on Google, and I like crushed every one of them alone. And that's because that's my focus. That level for Facebook is who Ethan Sigmund is. Okay, so if I could just put that into something, Ethan is one of the best Facebook marketers I've ever met in my life. I mean, he crushes it, okay? And what makes him good, and this is something I don't have the skill for, and I'll never be able to get as good as Ethan. Ethan has spent his life focused on how do I create amazing copy, amazing value-added propositions, the offers. He goes through and learns how to do all the things from the start of Facebook ads all the way through. So we're very fortunate to have Ethan here today because I'm going to learn a ton. You guys are going to learn a ton. We're going to actually see how he would run accounts on a very professional level. From a side of not so much Facebook side, Ethan, most of you won't know this about him, but Ethan was number 200 in the world for Halo. So, okay, yeah, that deserves a round of applause. Number 200.
Huh? Which one? Well, all of them, but that number 200 was Halo 5 when it was fully ranked. And then,
yeah, and so all the levels, he was level 50, which like on the nerd level is like as high as you can get.
right up there.
Yeah, it's like, he's top. He could play professionally. He had a team of 4 guys. One time I spent the night at his house. I was like, hey, can I have I was like in between places. Can I crash? Yeah, man, we're just gonna be practicing a little bit. Practicing what? Oh, we're just, we have a Halo group. And we practice for like tournaments and stuff. Oh, you mean like local? No, these are like world tournaments. And I go over there and I'm like, all right, around midnight, I'm like planning on going to bed. He starts at like 10. I'm like watching him. This guy's like killing like every like 2 seconds the screen's doing like this and he's just bam, bam. Team Slayer, Killer Slayer, 5,000 kills, 10,000 kills. Like that's just basically like his whole team. It's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And then like he's like talking, he's got like his 4 buddies in there. They're like all total nerds like him. And like they're like on the headphones and everything and they're like, oh, like flank left, it's like SEAL Team 6. Like flank left, there's like guys over here. Oh, grenade, flashbang this one. I got this one, bang, bang, bang. And like the whole 7 hours that he was on there was like this. It was incredible to watch. Like, so anyways, I'm like, I can sleep through just about anything. I put my headphones on at like midnight, I'm going to bed. At 4 in the morning, I'm like, yo, Ethan, do you mind if I like go sleep in your bed? Like, he's like, oh, you're still here? Yeah, sure, man, go for it. But Ethan's an interesting dude. We are so privileged to have him here. He flew up from Arizona, so let's give him a real round of applause. Thanks. All right, so I'm gonna give a spiritual thought, and then I'll take that, sir. And then after that, I'm not even gonna teach. Last class, I was like, hey, if you run out of material, I can get up and teach. I got a whole lesson prepared, but he doesn't need it. We're gonna have so many questions. Okay, but before we get started, how many of you have started your websites? How many of you have not started? Say aye. Okay, you know they're due in 1 week, right? You guys know that. They're due in 1 week. Have you started? Okay, so you're going to go home this week, and people are going to be like, hey, do you want to come to volleyball? And you're going to be like, nope, I got to do this website. Okay, all week long, that is all you guys are going to be doing. You two are going to be just focused on getting this website built in 1 week because it's a lot of work. How many of you guys are like pretty much 10, 15% in? Say aye. Okay, so the rest of you, when the girls ask you on a date, well, you got your haircut, so probably not for a little while for you. Oh, you're perfect. Okay, we're awesome. When you guys are like looking to do something social this week, you're going to be like, nope, I can't be social because I got to finish this website. Okay, that is due next week. Okay, I'm going to be, huh?
About Halo practice.
If you were Ethan and you never sleep, you're totally fine with that. But
I couldn't do websites, so that's why I had to drop out and play Halo and make
Yes. So that's basically what we're going to go from this, okay? So that's the strategy. I will be posting how we're going to grade and how the rubric's going to look either tonight after Riley and I have dinner or after, are we still on for that? Okay. Sorry, Stefania. My date for the night. They're married, by the way. So either after that or tomorrow morning, by then you'll have your rubric. I want you guys as a group to Marco Polo me, which nobody has, you slackers. So start, yeah, I don't want you slacking. I want you Marco Poloing, you slackers. Okay, let's get started. So I usually do spiritual thought set first, but I'm going to talk about this first, just get it out of the way. I love to give you guys, life lessons and things like that nature. This is the Mai Hong Song Loop. It's one of the most remote places in the world. It goes from, if this is like Thailand, and this is like Chiang Mai where everyone goes, it goes from Chiang Mai all the way over to Burma and back. Okay, it's a 7-day trip that you take on the motorcycle. And it is one of the most remote, beautiful, amazing. I mean, it was one of the coolest trips I've ever been on in my life. Last week we talked about Bagan. This is like top 3 for me as well. How many of you guys ride motorcycles? Okay, we've got a couple of you guys in here. Is yours still working after the crash? Okay, good. So this is kind of what the roads look like. They're dirt for a lot of it and through mountains, and you don't see towns for a long time. And I was riding with my backpack on the back. Guys, this is the craziest story. So I'm riding with my backpack on the back of this bike. I just strap it on, and I'm out in stuff like this, and about 30 minutes from town to town, my bag's nowhere to be seen. And it's got my computer, my laptop. I mean, like $5,000 worth of stuff is in this bag. My life, basically, my passport, literally everything. And so we turn around, we go back, and I'm like trying to do my GPS-enabled stuff for my iPad and everything. Anyways, my buddy moves on, and he keeps on going. And I ride for about 20 minutes back to the latest town. And at that point, I notice I'm out of gas. And if you know about a bike, bikes can go a long time without gas. I mean, it would be like a day or two. So the chances of this happening is like none. So I get back to this town, and I have to fill up at the gas station. When we say gas station in places like this, think like, okay, there's this liter thing, and they crank it to like 1 liter, 2 liter, 3 liters, and you tell them how many liters you want, and then that rolls into your tank. Like it's like a crank-style gas station. So I'm in there, I'm getting gas, and this Thai person says, backpack? I'm like, backpack? Backpack? I'm like, backpack? Backpack, yeah, where? She had my bag. Somebody had grabbed my bag off the road and brought it to that town. That's where we were. If they even knew. I mean, I had a year's salary for some of these people in that bag, if they even knew. And so I gave them money, and I gave them 1,000 baht, which is like $30, each of the girls. They were like 15-year-old girls. And they're like, no, we can't take it. And the grandmother's like, take it. You take this, It was the most amazing thing. So if you guys get a chance, this is like up there. Cool? Any questions about Mai Hong Song Loop? Cost per day, $20 with like housing, food, everything. It's amazing. The bikes you can rent in Chiang Mai for $30 a day. Chiang Mai, yeah.
So was it just you?
So I go on trips, not expecting anyone to go with me. I'll make friends on the way, I'll figure it out. But I went with Christian, one of my buddies, and then one of my former students came with me.
Sweet.
His name's Sam Allred. This kid, I gotta tell you the story. I would call him Rookie, because he's never ridden a bike before. So he's like, how hard?
I was going to ask is how the roads are for someone who hasn't.
So these parts were easy for him. It was the snake turns going up and down the mountains. Even if it was asphalt roads, it was like, how do you turn around a 180-degree turn? And he kept like falling off on he's going like 5 miles an hour and like jumps off because he can't stay up, So anyways, somebody had to babysit Rookie the whole time. Like one of us could go ahead and do the routes, like, the fun stuff that you do on a motorcycle. And then the other guy babysitted Rookie, and we take turns. And it was my turn to babysit. So I was back with Rookie. And my buddy Christian goes on ahead. And if you know anything, you guys ride bikes here. Has anyone ridden bikes in Asia? Okay, in Asia, you have?
Yep.
Where at? Okay, so do you know how gear shifting works in Asia? Like the gears go up faster than here.
No, I had automatic.
Oh, that was a scooter, not a bike, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a scooter, that doesn't count. So on these scooters, okay, so the gear shifting, it goes up. So at about 40 miles an hour, you're in 5th gear. Yeah, Matt?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's my
Okay.
question. So the gear right there, just close the gear right.
Yeah, because you never get that fast.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to go 75 miles an hour anywhere over there, right? So he's going about 55, and he downshifts twice, thinking it's going to be like the United States. And if you know anything about bikes, when you're on a turn and you brake, that's a no-no. You don't brake on a turn. And he was going too fast. He downshifted, and the bike just slid out from under him. 65 feet. His bike slid 65 feet, and he slid for a good portion of that. When I get to him, because Rookie and I are behind him at this point, he's got his shirt off. He's bloody from here on down. His pants are ripped. I mean, you've got like, oh man, I wanted to show you guys, but he's all scabbed up like you would expect, you know, in a case like this. And so I hop off my bike. Oh my gosh, are you all right? And I'm like dripping water. Like, what can we do? And he's like shocked and everything. Rookie hadn't slept in 24 hours. Okay. So on the plane, I was teaching him how to ride a bike from China. We just went to the fair over there. And like on the plane, I teach him how to ride a bike. And so he like literally had slept like an hour in 24 hours. And so every chance we get, he'd just pass out. So he gets there, gets on the ground, and just passes out. Had no clue, had zero clue that anybody was hurt. Like he just didn't even register. That's how tired this guy was. And so I swear this is true. I'm not making this up. Thai people would pass us. They'd hop off their bike. They'd see Christian and they'd run over, they wouldn't even look at Christian. And they'd see him on the ground like this. And they'd be like, is he dead? Like I had one guy like praying over him. Like, I'm like, no, he's just sleeping, guys. Like he's not even sick or hurt or anything. Like, don't worry about him. This is the guy hurt. Like it was crazy. But yeah, one of the best experiences. My Hong Song Lu. Okay. Today I want to talk to you about something very personal in my life. A very, we'll call it intimate spiritual thought. One that I don't think you'll hear from many other people at BYU. And so I think this will be important to talk about. How many of you how many of you know somebody who has been divorced? Say aye. Okay, good. Hoping that was the case. Not hoping for them, but like hoping that we had something relevant. Okay, out of those people, think of those people who have been divorced. How many of you know somebody who, before they got married, you've asked them, had a spiritual confirmation to marry that person, only for their marriage to end up like a failure? Say aye. Okay, good number of you. So I have a friend, for example, who she got married to somebody, went to the temple, prayed about it, got a spiritual revelation saying, I should marry this person. And then he turns out to be addicted to painkillers. And 2 years later, wiped away $80,000 in her bank account, wouldn't show her the bank account and stuff, wiped all the money away, and they have a kid, and now they're divorced. Okay? That's like story one. Another story, I had a friend who had the revelation, had the spiritual thought, married somebody, only to find out that he was abusive later on. Okay? So, I mean, like physically abusive. Others left the church, you know, similar stories, right? I mean, you guys have heard of these, right? You're not like, this isn't like news, right? This happens. Okay? Each of those times, they went to the temple and they got a revelation, this spiritual experience from God telling them, this is the person to marry. Okay? I'd like to give you a story from my life. So mine was the opposite. I'm living the best I can in the commandments. I'm doing the best I can. I've met a girl about a year before. We've been dating for about a year, and from my accounts, everything's going amazing. I mean, she's phenomenal. We're best friends. We love each other. We have a ton of great things in common. I could just see I could see a future with her. So I tell her on this trip, we're in Colombia this time, we're like later, and I said, hey, I could see myself having a future with you. And she says, yeah, I could see that too. I love you, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Now she goes home early. I was there learning Spanish. She goes home early, and a week before I get home, she breaks up with me. I'm like, why? What's going on? She goes, well, I don't know, like I just don't feel uplifted with you. Maybe you're not like spiritual enough for me. Like I'm like, what? Like, where's this coming from? Like, why haven't we talked about this? Okay, I'll change. I'll be more spiritual, you know, like I'll change. And she's like, I don't know. I just don't know. And so I get home, and literally within a week from me getting home, she's dating another guy. And yeah, and so then I'm like, hey, my birthday's here in a month. Would you mind if we like went to dinner then? She goes, Brigham, it's important for you to know that by the time you get back from Switzerland, which is why I was going on a trip, I'll be dating this person. Dating, like relationship. And I'm like, how is this possible? Like the girl that I love, I literally felt like somebody died. Like that's like, I felt like I was depressed for months. I lost 16 pounds, which I mean, like, look at me, like, where do you lose 16 pounds from, right? I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Like for 3 hours a night, I was sleeping. It was like literally one of the worst experiences. I saw a psychiatrist, and I just asked her, I was like, look, like, I just want this pain in my chest to go away. I don't know how or what to do, but I just can't get it to go away. It just was hurting so bad. On top of this person worked for me. So it just gets better and better, right? Like, so the person works for me, and she'd have her phone out on the table, and then her boyfriend would like buzz in and text her and Marco Polo her, and I'm just like, oh, this like sucks so bad. And then I'd go to church, and she was at my church with him, like they were in the same ward, everyone. And so it just gets worse and worse, right? So I'd walk into church like this. I'd walk in, hey guys, hi, and I'd walk to the very front row, and I'd sit down on the very front row and just look forward. Like I was like, I'm not gonna look. It's like the only place. Eventually I had to go to a different ward. It just hurts so bad. So she dates this guy for 3 months, and they break up, and the day they break up, she calls me. I want to get back together. I want to try again. Can we just like, please, like, I want to make this work. Of course, yeah, I love you. Like, let's do this. Let's try to make it work. And then 3 days later, I don't feel at peace. This happened, and you're going to think I'm an idiot. And I am an idiot, but I'll go ahead and say it. This happened 7 times. It happened so many times that by the 4th, 5th, and 6th, I didn't tell anyone. Because I knew she was going to break up with me. Like 3 days later, she was going to break up with me. Like the same story. So it was always the same thing. We get back together. I can't stop thinking about you. Like, you're the perfect guy. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. I was so stupid before, yada, yada, yada. And then I don't feel at peace. I went to the temple. I prayed about it. I can't do it. And I was mad. I was so mad. I was so frustrated at God, at myself. I was so mad. And I was looking at this, and I was like, wait a minute. All those stories you just talked about, those people that you had thought about, the ones that had beat their wives, they left the church, they did all these things. How could God give them a yes? And yet with her, I love her. I would always treat her right. I would be an amazing dad and father and all these things. How could he tell her no? Like, where's the justice in that? So now my question for you, after understanding the background, is when does God ever say no? When does God say no? Does he say no? Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
So I have a few different thoughts. So a couple of those stories kind of resonate well with me, unfortunately. It wasn't 7, it was 2. But
Okay,
the second
smarter
time,
guy than I am. Let's just
I remember the second time it was like, she's like breaking up, and she's like, oh, you seem like you're okay with it. I was like, my response was, you can only break up with a guy so many times. You know what I mean? So kind of looking at that, one is, I thought about the question as far as the yeses and having bad things happen, right? And I've gotten close to getting married a couple times before I got married to my wife. And there were times where I legitimately thought that the answer that had come was yes to marry that individual.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it was because I didn't fully understand what the idea was. There's a scripture that talks about basically like a stupor of thought. Right?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what that means for me and all that kind of stuff. And I look back and I'm very grateful with the decisions that I ended up making, even though a lot of times it took me a long time.
Yeah.
And so my challenge is for a lot of people that say their answer is yes, a lot of times I think people that don't have the patience to be to a true confirmation. And that may sound judgmental or whatnot, but in my life, with my understanding of my relationship with my Heavenly Father, my answers don't come. You can get it. If it's yes today, it's going to be yes tomorrow.
Yeah.
A true yes is a true yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of times people get a feeling of yes, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to hold on to that.
Yep.
And I'm going to ignore everything else. I'm going to ignore the signals, the signs. And so for me, with Heavenly Father, I don't think he ever. I can't think of too many times he said no, other than like a huge prompting to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
It's mostly just he doesn't say a firm yes.
So it's like what's the rush, right? Like if it's yes for in the next 3 months, why do we gotta get married 3 months from now? You're gonna be married for eternity. Why not wait a year at least, or like have some more time on that, right? I love that thought. Yeah, beautiful. Go ahead.
What comes to mind is the experience that Oliver Cowdery had with translating Men and Women.
Okay.
Where there was a time when the Lord said, yes, we can translate this.
Yeah.
And then he didn't put in the effort.
Uh-huh.
And then the gift was taken away.
Okay.
And the response was, at that time it was expedient for you to translate this. Right now it is not expedient for you to translate.
Does this work for marriage? Like this person's good for you at this time, but not in the future?
I honestly think it does. Because
Interesting.
I've known people who have had the yes, get married get divorced later, and then eventually get remarried. And some of those people, some of them, others not so much, but some of them would say, you know, that was a terrible experience, that first relationship, but I'm so glad I went through it because I learned so much to prepare me for this much better relationship that I'm in now.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are good things that can come from a yes that you're like, well, why was there a yes when it turned out so bad?
Good. So there's good. I mean, life throws you lemons. Let's make lemonade, kind of idea. I like that. We'll go there. Steve.
Didn't we all agree when we came down? We knew that we would go through divorces. We knew that we would have people die in our life.
Yeah, we signed up for it. Yeah.
And we raised our hands and said, yes, I'm ready to go.
It's
Our
awesome.
paths will all be different. Every
Yeah.
one of them will be. The question is whether or not you learn from it, you grow a victim to it, or we grow from it.
Yeah. I love that. Yes.
So like Adam and yourself, I had a similar experience with the girl that I dated. We dated kind of the same thing. We'd go really strong for like a month and break up, and then a couple days here. And one thing that I realized from it all was, even though God may be confirming yes or a no, you can't control how the other person feels. And so like, even if you think it's a yes and they think it's a no, you can never like, you can't like control how they think. You can't control what God may or may not be telling them. But I think, I don't remember her name, but you learn a lot.
Mhm.
I think I learned a person that I want from like a secular stance, not maybe spiritual, but like
Yeah.
what I look for in a girl, like
Right.
in the worldly perspective. Like she was ambitious, she had high goals.
Yeah.
Maybe spiritually it wasn't what I needed in my life, but I learned like physically what I need in a relationship.
What's your name?
Mark.
Mark brings up a good point. So sometimes in what we ask for, it's like, should we get married? But you don't have any agency for her. You're not her bishop. You're not her dad. You don't have any stewardship over that girl, and vice versa for the girl for the guy. Maybe the question isn't should we get married, but is this person the right fit for me? Right? Because you can't have both. Today's topic that I want to speak to you about is how the Spirit actually works to confirm or deny revelation, and what that revelation actually is. Okay? And I'm going to tell you today that everyone up here thinking that this is how it works, like the 90% of people that go to BYU, it's wrong. It's flat wrong. God does not work like that. Okay? God's not going to give you that response of you need to marry this person or you need to not marry this person. And I want to show you a little bit more about that. So can we get a reader, please? So yes, in the back. What's your name? Oh, Robbie. Robbie? Okay, go ahead. This is Bruce R. McConkie, by the way.
How do you choose a wife? I've heard a lot of young people converting young university and elsewhere say, I've got to get a feeling of inspiration. I've got to get some revelation. I've got to fast and pray and get the Lord to manifest to me whom I should marry. Well, maybe it will be a little shock to you, but never in my life did I ever ask the Lord whom I ought to marry.
Hold on, wait, let's all experience this shock a little bit. Wait, Bruce R. McConkie, maybe he wasn't spiritual enough. What is going on? Here is an apostle of the church on the greatest question about salvation for him and exaltation, and he never asked the Lord who he should marry? Something's got to be, he's playing too much Halo. It's got to be it. Go ahead.
Russell and Nelson did.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Keep going.
It never occurred to me to ask him.
It never occurred to him. How is this possible? Think back 40 years, how different times were back then.
I went out and found the girl I wanted. She suited me.
Keep going, you're on a roll. By the way, this is not Bruce R. McConkie. If any of you guys were wondering, this is not him, okay?
Is the previous guy?
The previous guy might have been him. It's a black and white photo, so one to leave to your speculation, yes. But that's definitely not him.
I evaluated and weighed the proposition, and it just seemed 100% to me as though this ought to be. Now, if I'd done things perfectly, and have, now if I'd
Speak
done
up,
things
speak up.
perfectly, I'd have done some counseling with the Lord, which I didn't do. But all I did was pray to the Lord and ask for some guidance and direction in connection with the decision that I've reached. A more perfect thing to have done would have been to counsel with him relative to the decision and get a spiritual confirmation of the conclusion which I, by my agency and faculties, had arrived at was the right one.
Okay, so what do we learn about this from his experience? How do we learn that revelation should work in relation to big decisions that we need to take? Go ahead.
You need to figure it out yourself and then go to God with your answer.
Okay, great. Love it. Spencer.
behind knock and it shall be open unto you
Uh-huh.
is that you had to walk to the door to get there.
Beautiful, right. Ask and you shall receive. Ask for the path, follow the path, and then you can knock, right? That's trust and then faith. Love that comment. Anyone else? Yeah.
I mean, I personally believe that we have so much more of a leash than most people think, and that it's good to take your thoughts to God, but you should trust yourself a lot more than you do.
I 100% agree with that. Adam, do you have something?
No, this is good.
Okay, good. Yes.
Going off of what he said, so you can't go to God with fear when you have that kind of question. You have
Right.
to be confident that what your choice is something acceptable. Because if you present it with fear, it's possible that what you think is an answer is just paranoia or
Yeah.
something else.
Good. Yes, Matt.
The first way is you're actually asking God to remove your agency.
Yes.
And by doing that, you eliminate the possibility of him acting like God.
Yes.
He will not answer that question. It's impossible. He's already told us he won't answer that question. Or
But-
those types of questions.
But Matt,
So
what?
when we exercise our agency and we do our best to equally yoke with him, and we do all that we can, then he is bound to give us an answer because he's promised. And so I feel like this is sort of a, oh yeah, moment. Of course.
But Matt, is God going to tell us who we should marry? I mean, this is like the most important question of our life, right? Presumably.
No.
No. Why not?
He kind of said it, but it's all down to our personal agency. Think about it this way, right? So say God goes up to you and says, hey, this is the person for you. And then that person ends up going off the deep end, which you kind of mentioned in some of your stories, right? Like, suddenly the person's like addicted to whatever,
Yeah.
and then there's abuse and all this
Yeah.
other stuff, and then it's divorce, and then they leave then you end up
Right.
in the church, and you're like, oh God, you told me that this was the right one, but it wasn't. So it's like, how do I have faith, right?
How do I have faith in that, right?
I don't think God answers those questions, right? Maybe he'll tell us if it's like a very blatantly bad idea.
Yeah.
Right? But I think a lot of the time he leaves it up to our own agency. He lets us make our own decision, and then it's on us.
And that's very scary for us, right? Because this is something of eternal significance. It's very scary for us. He did, however, do it for Hosea, but look how that turned out. You guys remember that story? That was not good. Just one comment on that. We're going to take 3 more comments, and then we're going to move on. I want these to be fast. But look, just to Matt's point, where is it? Direction. In connection with the decision that I had reached. I reached that decision. Okay? We're going to go here, here, and then here.
So I feel like if we had to rely on
Yes.
God to tell us who to marry, then there's like 20 million people in this world of our faith, and there's like 7 billion other people. And I've seen a lot of really happy marriages that are outside of our faith.
Yeah.
So how are they being successful? Because they've gone on dates, they've learned about the person, they've realized what they want, they've made a connection, they love each other, and then
Yeah.
they get married, which is how it should go.
Yeah. I love
we
that.
don't need someone to just tell us what to do.
We don't want somebody to take away our agency.
Right.
One of the things that I did while I was searching for my current husband was praying to have experiences to let me know whether this person was a good fit for me.
That's beautiful.
And usually, while I was dating around, within 3 dates, I would know
Yeah.
whether I could keep going with this person or whether it needed to be dropped and
Yeah.
this wasn't going to move forward. And I can apply that to other things too. Is, if XYZ is good for me and this is something I should be doing, like help me have experiences as I pursue this to know whether or not, yes, I actually need to be doing this or
Yeah.
no, this is something I shouldn't be doing.
Okay, I love that. I'm going to come back to you in a second, but let me just kind of play on this for a little bit. How many of you guys read the Book of Mormon? Say aye. Does anyone remember the promise at the end of the Book of Mormon? It's like Moroni 10, 3 through 5. Does anyone can somebody like give me the gist of that promise? Okay, tell me about it, huh?
If you ask God with a true intent, pure heart, and faith in Christ, yeah, having faith in Christ, you'll receive revelation through the Holy Ghost.
Okay, so the thing is, read the Book of Mormon, right? And then at the end, ask God, and if you ask with real intent, pure heart, he will manifest the truth of these things unto you by the power of the Holy Ghost. Promise, right? I've read the Book of Mormon maybe 5, maybe 6 times in my life, all the way cover to cover. Every time I've done that, I've gone on my knees, found a quiet spot, and asked God, are these things true? And the response that I got might shock you. It has been completely underwhelming. I've never received a response. Nothing more. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's just the air conditioning. That's it. I've never had a response. I've never had something come to me of significance. And in my whole life, I've been able to I feel like I can be guided by the Spirit, but I've never had that. I have, however, over the thousands of pages that I've read, cover to cover in the Book of Mormon, had personal revelation come to me, had warmth of the Spirit, have the fruits of the Spirit hit my soul, and feel like God teaches me things while I read the Book of Mormon. My testimony in the Book of Mormon did not come by climbing a mountain and seeing over the other side. My testimony in the Book of Mormon came on the journey throughout. Likewise, to Sarah's point, our testimony, our ability to know if something is good or not good, just like Adam said, comes through the journey. Then multiple times throughout the process, not just once or twice, but multiple times throughout the process, we feel the direction in our life. Perhaps that's why Bruce R. McConkie could say it never occurred to him. It never occurred to him to ask. He already knew the answer. He already knew it because he's had those experiences all up until this point. Okay? I want to talk to you about how the Spirit actually works. Okay? And what it can and cannot do. And this may be revelation and completely like brand new for some of you. Because so many people think that the way they find their significant other or whatever big decision in their life is that they date for a while, they go to the temple and they ask God. But God is never going to tell you that this is the person you should marry for a eternal blissful happiness. He's never going to do that. He's never, as Matt said, going to take away that agency. Okay? So, let's look at this. This is what the Spirit will do for you when you come to Him like Bruce R. McConkie did and ask. First, He will help you understand your feelings. So that girl that I was dating, we'd date for 3 days and she'd break up with me. I don't feel right. I went to the temple. I prayed about it. I don't feel good about it. It wasn't that she got this answer of, hey, like, you shouldn't marry this person. God wasn't telling her what to do, but He was helping her understand how she already felt. The Spirit provided clarity, not revelation. Okay, that's an important point. My ex-fiance, so the girl I dated before this girl, we were very close to marriage. We had dated for a year, and I went to the temple. I prayed about things, and I asked God, and the response that I got was yes. And I could have brought to my attention my feelings of all the reasons why I should marry this girl. Fast forward a year, and during this process, the wedding kept getting postponed and postponed. I went to the temple again, and I prayed and asked God, and I had a very different answer. And over that year, I could see all the things that maybe we didn't connect on the spiritual level or those relationship-wise. Not to say her or me bad either way, but maybe we didn't connect in the right way to make a marriage work. And I could see that. Why was my response so different if God is eternally true and always the same? If it only had to be that I had more knowledge. A lot of the times the Spirit works like a toolbox, right? It can pull out specific tools, but it's not going to tell you and reveal to you things that you don't already know. So that lady that dated for 3 weeks and then got married because she had a good feeling about it, the Spirit does not and will not reveal to her things about that person that she cannot on her own already come up with. Now, I don't want to say that that can never happen, but as a general rule, that's the way things work, okay? Second thing, it provides you peace and clarity. And the third deals with hope. Hope is a promise of blessings to come that is sealed by the Holy Ghost, right? And so when we feel the Holy Ghost, God is not telling you this marriage is going to work. He's telling you that I will bless the covenant that you choose. I will bless you in your marriage so long as I will hold my end of the bargain, so long as that you live properly. This is what it doesn't do. It's not going to tell you if it's going to work out. It is not a crystal ball, okay? You're asking the wrong question. Surprise. That is not how it works, okay? It's not going to tell you your one true love, and it's not going to tell you if you're meant to be together. Okay, that is not how the Spirit works. So stop asking those questions, okay? And start dating longer than 3 months. You laugh, but it's true. How many of you got engaged after 3 months? Come on. How many? You're engaged, okay. It can still work, all right? I'm not saying it can't, but what's the rush, guys? You guys have been together your whole life. if you know how the Spirit works on this, give it time, right? Give it time to date before you get married. Don't wait as long as me at 32 years old. Holy crap, you'll be a loser. But, hopefully you can wait a little longer. Yeah.
One thing I think that's important to recognize is, so we talked about real intent. I think just simply finding what real intent is would get you to a lot of these results.
Okay, how?
Because if you have sincere intent to buy a car,
Yeah.
you're gonna go and do the research.
Okay.
Right? You're gonna go and look at the options, you're gonna find it, figure it out, and you're gonna try and make an informed decision. Real intent, I believe, leads you to an informed decision. Also, like the other thought that I had was in our faith within the culture of it, we use terms that we say literally means one thing, but we're implying it meaning another thing. So like, for example, like I could see my parents saying something like, pray about it and he'll tell you. Are they really saying he'll tell me and I should ask? No, I think they're actually saying exactly what you're talking about, which is go do your due diligence, figure it out, and like as you go through that process, keep them involved, so that way you can like improve the questions you're asking. Get to know people better. You can, and then like receive make a decision and have a confirmation. Because, I mean, if you like, Heavenly Father is never going to. Let me put it this way: how many times do we use Heavenly Father as a scapegoat?
As a crutch. Mm-hmm.
And no, like I mean, like not even just a crutch, like as a scapegoat. So like when things go wrong, it's his fault. Yeah. Right. And the thing is like that's why like real intent. With real intent, it's never a scapegoat. Like if I do something wrong in my marriage, one of the reasons why I feel so confident is because I took some serious thought about who it was that I decided to marry. And like, yes, was a confirmation of my decision and all that a very important part of my process? Absolutely. But like, I didn't take it lightheartedly. I didn't go and be like, hey, this girl's really pretty. Like, should I marry her? Does that make sense? And so like, and I feel like that's helped me to like have a desire. It gives me more confidence in my relationship because I'm able to then say like, look, if I screwed up, like I screwed up and I made the decision to
It wasn't
be here.
God.
God didn't tell me to be here. I can't be pissed at him.
And likewise, you take the responsibility to fix it.
And you have to, because if you take responsibility at the beginning, you'll take responsibility later.
Which contrasts that with some of the other people. How many of you know somebody who's like, they started to date somebody and then the other person was like, oh, well, God told me not to marry you. Like, say hi. Have you heard that? Yeah, that's not God, okay? That's you not understanding your feelings, okay? Or maybe you're understanding something, but that's God clarifying your feelings that you already have. That's not God telling you. And in that case, if things change, if the circumstances change, if things get better, if you work through things, it very well could be that that person could be someone that you could marry. Go ahead.
Okay, something just really quick.
Yeah.
When I was trying to decide if I was going to go on a mission, I spent like a good year praying about it.
Yeah.
And I got 0 answers. Some of like the most intense prayers of my life. You know, like good old wrestling with God.
Yeah.
Good old yelling involved, and I just couldn't get anything right. Like no clarity. Period.
Right.
I didn't end up getting an answer about my mission until a while after I turned in my papers and got a call. Right? Like I didn't get a confirmation until it was already happening. And in hindsight, at the time I was going nuts. I was really angry. But in hindsight, I am so incredibly grateful that Heavenly Father didn't tell me what to do, right? Because it meant when I went on my mission, at some level, it was mine, right? I had ownership over what was happening and what I was doing. And for that same reason, I kind of have the same thoughts on relationships, right? Yeah. Like at some level, I want it to be mine, right? I want to be able to have my own ownership over over what's happening.
Let's transition here. I love that comment, and I love where you're going with this. Can you read our next slide, please?
Sure. If I didn't receive such a powerful revelation in the temple, I wouldn't still be married to your father.
How many of you have heard that before? Say aye. Isn't that something you've heard? Come on, tell me you haven't heard that before. That is a false revelation, okay? That is not how revelation works. Wake up call. Yeah? What a burn. People are using God as an scapegoat, a crutch. In my eyes, that's a crutch. Hey, I'm not, the things that are going wrong in my relationship are happening, whatever, I got to stick with it because of God. What is the most important revelation for us? What time does the revelation come? The most important revelation for us is when? Now, right? It's not what Moses or Isaiah said. So we have a modern day prophet. In your life, the most important revelation is the revelation right now. Because just like with those experiences you've seen, those revelations can change depending on where you are in your life and what you've learned throughout the way. Okay? So at this point, yeah, maybe it was the right decision, but if he turns into a wife beater, beats his children, is a terrible person, that's not a good reason to stay with somebody. Okay? If you're in an abusive relationship, get out. Okay? Not just because you had a revelation 20 years ago that you stay married to somebody. Now, I'm not condoning or like supporting divorce. Okay? But I do want you to pray about that and make a weighted decision based on where you are now in your life for revelation. Matt, do you have something? I thought you raised your hand.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? Any other comments? Yes, Stefania.
I know, like, extending the conversation, but I just remembered one thing I read the other day. So it was saying that a lot of your best ideas will come when you're not actively trying to solve a problem. So
Okay.
if you're at work and you're frustrated, you might go home and be showering or something and you get it. It just pops into your head. So I think it's the same with a lot of revelation. You're not going to find it when you're screaming at God and trying to get an answer. You might find it when you're not ready for it and not really thinking about it.
There's like studies like alpha beta receptors, and it's like at nighttime you're good at like calculating and analyzing and compressing information, but in the morning throughout your sleep cycle, all of that stuff kind of works itself into compartments, and you're much more creative in the morning because it's already boxed to where it needs to go. Your brain already processed it. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Matt.
I have found that that my level of commitment changes the Lord's answer to nearly everything.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's phenomenal. It's absolutely true. Yeah,
I also
Ashley.
love the quote, like, information provides inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's, again, kind of a compilation of everything that everyone's been saying this whole time. And it's like, in conference recently, we saw this with President Nelson, right? Like, they made the LGBT, whatever, change,
Yes.
baptism,
Mm-hmm.
and then waited a few years, and they changed it back. And a lot of people were upset, and they were like, well, how is that God and revelation?
Yes.
But, like, information changes answers. So, like you're saying, like, the most important revelation is now because we're constantly getting new information and experiences and knowledge, and like that's always going to change. It's not ever going to be like a definite thing, right?
I love that. Yeah, and I think President Nelson, he said, good information leads to great revelation. It's phenomenal. Last comment.
I see your slide and I see that I wouldn't still be married to your father, so I realize what I'm going to say is slightly different.
Please.
But I also think that having that revelation at the beginning can help you as you go, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about abuse or worse things, but marriages are rocky and they have ups and downs and bad periods. And if you can look back and go, you know, I did get an answer and I felt like it was really good at the time and I had inspiration to marry my husband. And so even though it's rocky right now, I'm going to push through. I think that can really help you to look back on that revelation and get through the rough times.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, last comment.
I think I might add a modifier to your false doctrine right there. I might say situationally false doctrine.
Thank you. I want to just end on this note. Love is faith, okay? Faith is when you walk into a world of darkness hoping for another benefit or blessing to happen at that time. Love is the same way. When you extend yourself to love someone, you extend yourself to get hurt, to get abused, to have your whole heart on the line, to be 16 pounds lighter, depressed, you know, and go through all those things. But that's faith, right? Like faith is you don't know what's going to happen, but you give it anyway, right? And I think as we love someone, we extend ourselves to have a greater amount of faith. And I leave that with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, Ethan.
Can I make a suggestion
Yeah,
for the
please.
video? If we leave the lights off in front of the screen, then the video can see anything we do on the computer if we're doing anything on the computer.
So is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Phenomenal suggestion. Okay,
So
so
we can go back and watch it and use the video of it.
guys, I'm going to turn the time over to Ethan now. He's a rock star. He doesn't even need me. I'm probably just going to go home and sleep at this point. Oh yeah, he doesn't have a car that works. He borrowed a car off Turo and the thing broke down.
Literally, as I was pulling into my parking spot, the entire thing died in a start. So,
Well,
but
is there a
it was
water
acting
bottle?
crazy like 2 miles before
Is there
that.
a water
so
bottle?
somebody must really need to hear something. Yeah. Do we need to switch the mic?
Yeah, let's switch the mic. Okay, so I'm going to be up here as well asking questions. I'm going to just sit up kind of in the front row so you guys can see. But mainly, as you guys have questions, I want you to be leading this discussion. Just think of this as like your chance to see a guru. You know who Ethan reminds me of? Let me find this real quick. This new Star Wars trailer, one of the... Wait, where's the...
Kylo Ren, dude.
Yeah, look at that. Did you guys know he was an actor as well?
When the first one came out with Kylo Ren, people used to stop me and ask me to take pictures with me. Because my hair was the exact same length and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, like, ladies between, like, 40 and 60, because they're like, I'm going to send this to my kids and try and trick them. Okay.
War and Peace? Wait, War and Peace what?
Sky high.
That's funny.
That right there.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I'm going to put this on my fridge.
I'll just give you a picture of me.
Okay, thanks.
Well, cool. Let me grab my laptop here and plug it in. Yeah. Awesome. I'm excited to dive into this stuff. So, Brigham, I think, has covered with you guys a little bit like the flawless Facebook ads formula and things like that. Yeah?
By the way, he's the one who taught me that. Remember I said there was like, this is like what the experts do? That's him.
It's my formula. So you better be applying it. You know what I mean? So, dude, do you know why it does? Sometimes it throws into like
super small?
Yeah.
Oh, this is, yeah, you gotta switch the input.
Oh.
to the HTML.
They know.
Yeah, it'll take a second.
They know. Awesome. So let me put it up for like 2 seconds, and I'm going to do something on the whiteboard, and then.
Yep. And just remember to stay over here.
Yeah.
And talk about it. I'm gonna get you.
I think. Where's the black one at? Right there. Cool. All right. So perfect. So, you know, me and Brigham were talking about this a little bit, and there's kind of a few stages in ads. So you guys went over the flawless Facebook ads formula and things like that, and that's kind of stage one, all right? And what that is that's really like account foundation. Guys, I cannot spell, so I hate writing on boards. Foundation. All right, perfect. And campaign foundation. And then it also provides a testing formula. All right, so before you can move into anything else, like that's what you need on stage one. So hopefully like you have a decent understanding about that. You don't have to have like applied it a ton or whatnot, but like that's kind of where you guys are at right now. Stage two is a little bit more what we're going to talk about now. So stage two is focused more about like your initial, getting like your initial momentum rolling, all right? So right now, a lot of you are maybe starting to run ads for somebody, starting to run ads for a product or a business that you have, and generally what's going on is you're starting from zero there, right? And so it's like, okay, we need to get some momentum going. We need to figure out there. So what do I focus on initially besides like I know how I need to format stuff, I know how I need to set stuff up. Where should my main focus is with my ads be initially to get like some momentum going, like making a little bit of money at least, right? So like stage two is your initial momentum, and the biggest things to focus on in stage two that are going to make that difference are your funnel. So whether that's like your e-commerce store, the page, I just use funnel for whatever destination you're pushing your traffic to. Your funnel, your audiences, and then your creatives. All right? So I think Brigham went over a little bit with you guys about funnels and destination and things like that, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But just so you guys know, like, the importance of that, like, I would say 70%, if not more, of the success of your ads is dependent on that funnel, where the place that you're pushing your traffic to. And that's more than like what the page looks like, things like that. It's, you know, what your offer structure is, how good your copywriting and things are there, like how well you're explaining and articulating the offer. All those things are the biggest part of making ads work. And then the rest is basically 30% of the ads, so everything else. Because really what Facebook ads are is they're an accelerator, okay? So if you have a bad funnel that's, you know, not really converting or is set up bad or whatnot, it's going to accelerate how fast you waste your money. If you have something that's converting, it's going to accelerate how much money you're making, all right? So a lot of people will look at Facebook ads as like the savior to saving their business or making money online, and they'll think, you know, hey, if I can just figure out ads, like, then we'll be able to start making money. Then this will work. And that's the wrong mindset, all right? So ads is always step 2. So if you haven't kind of figured out some initial kind of structure there, just know that you'll have to spend some money to get some data. Now that doesn't mean that if you have something brand new and you're trying to figure out what works, you can't run ads to it. Just know that like you need to be looking at more than the ads. You could be running an amazing, perfect ad that, you know, has all the signs of something that's pushing the perfect traffic, but it could still be generating no sales because there's a gap or something missing on the funnel. Now, if you're running an agency and you're trying to get like clients, what you want to do is you want to focus on people who already have the funnel all figured out, because that's going to be something, as if you're running an agency, you have no control over. So you don't want to take on clients that have never, you know, made any sales online or from any other like online traffic source or things like that, because it's gonna be a really, really hard battle to win. It's not impossible, but you know, you're either going to end up doing those things and you're not going to be really compensated well for them, or they're just not going to get done, and then they're going to think that you didn't do a good job because, you know, they didn't see the results that they wanted, things like that. Where realistically, you know, you have to have that foundation of the funnel set up. And there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about there, but just for time's sake, we're not going to dive super, super deep into it today. We're going to try and focus more on the ad side of everything today. But does that kind of make sense to everybody? Do you understand that? Any questions about like the funnel or anything quick there that you have? Yeah.
I was just going to ask, just for time's sake, are there any specific stores or anything like that you just really like? You're like, man, these guys have a killer funnel.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you see an example, you can answer a lot of your questions. And
So a reoccurring theme with all of this that you're going to hear me talk about and I just like pound away is market research in the sense of like, you want to consume as much as you create. So like if you're going to be creating ads and creatives and funnels and different things like that, look at like what markets you're going into or different industries that you like and click on the ads that like stick out to you. And then almost take like a third-party perspective where you're like purposely being aware of like what type of page are they going to? What's the structure of this page? Does it have navigation on it? Like how is their offer structured? Like what is the price point that they're selling at? Like what type of verbiage do they use? Like really be mindful of all of those things. So I have like favorites that I like, but they're all in different industries, right? And everybody's going to be in a different industry.
so basically, if you're selling to an audience that isn't you, become the audience. So that way you can gain the knowledge and then make better decisions on funnels.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you guys some tools where you can like shortcut that research without having to like scroll endlessly through your feed and hope that you'll see an ad, especially like if you're running for an audience that isn't you. Like we had a huge client that we were running and the audience was specifically like women between 45 and like 85 years old, and we were selling like a dance workout similar to like Zumba, right? Like that audience is not me. Like I'm not gonna get ads that would be served for like dance workouts. Like Facebook just knows like I'm not buying those types of things. And so no matter how much I scrolled, I would never see like what that niche looks like. And so there's some tools that you can use to kind of research some of those things and see what type of ads are running and things like that. And so I'll show that to you. I saw another hand.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about the funnel going towards your landing page. So is the concept of the funnel basically the first point of contact with your ad up until they get to the landing page? Is that how we should understand it?
The concept of the funnel is everything after the ad.
Okay.
And what you want to think about when you're creating your funnels and when you're deciding where you want to send your ad traffic is what is the ideal user's sale path. So for example, like we'll use a real life scenario. You know, you go to Walmart, there's candy bars by the checkouts. There's not like, oh, well in Walmart they do have like a candy aisle, you know what I mean? But like in a Walgreens or things like that, it's rare that it's like, oh, here's an aisle that I know all the Snickers are gonna be on. It's more like, hey, if you want a Snickers, it's by the checkout. That's super intentional. They know like, hey, if we wanna make a sale on a Snickers, the ideal sales path is usually an impulse buy when somebody's by a checkout. And so we need to kind of position it there so that traffic goes and sees that there. Another, you know, good like process is, I'm sure a lot of you do like door-to-door sales or have done sales in some way, shape, or form. Like, I'm sure you have an ideal sequence that you want to present information to people in. And you know, like, hey, if I build it in this format, I just have a higher close percent. And if I can control the conversation as much as I can so that, you know, these questions arrive at this time, or I, give the information so it doesn't bring up that question or things like that, I have a way higher chance to sell. It's no different than when you're selling online. And so you want to just think about like, okay, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people do is they're running an ad for a product, and then when you click on the ad, it goes directly to like the homepage of the store. It's like, man, now the person has to like land on this store, look around for the product, like, you know, there's like all these questions that arise, and your conversion rates are going to drop. So like, take them specifically to a page for that product that then is laid out and provides the information in a way that you know has the highest, you know, rate for conversion type deal.
Do you tend to retell the story? I know when we talked about account foundation, things like that, you know, we have the story that, you know, hook,
Mhm.
or, you know, when it comes to Facebook.
Yep.
Are you retelling the story? Is that often the case? Or do you elaborate, or just ideal sales path? Look,
Yeah.
we got enough information from the ad, now we're just going to take them through what they need to know and how to buy.
Yeah, exactly. So you're repeating that process. So essentially what you're doing is you're trying to constantly bridge somebody to a new mountain. So when they're on Facebook, they're over here on this mountain, right? This is Facebook right here. And so we have a hook story offer to try and bridge them over here to this mountain, which is our funnel, all right? And then the whole goal of your funnel is it needs to be structured in a way to try and bridge somebody over here into a sale where they give you money. And so you can use a hook story offer, but now your hook doesn't have to be as broad. It goes deeper because you know more information about the people that are there, things like that. So you're always bridging. So the thought process is like, okay, if I'm looking at this, what are the logical like questions that I'll have or things that I'll need kind of filled in here so that I can move to the next place, that I do know like exactly where I need to go and what needs to happen to get there type deal. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? Awesome. So yeah, this is a huge thing, and you know, if you're gonna be doing ads for other people and things like that, you'll often come into their account, and you may not be the first one that runs ads for them, and so you'll take a look at their account. Like one of the first things I always do is like, okay, well, what pages are they sending people to? Like, what's this flow look like? When I talk to new people that are interested in having us run ads, it's like, all right, what's your current sales process look like? What's that? I need to know those things before I can ever even think of like what audiences I'm gonna run people to, what creatives I need to take people to, because I don't know what mountain I'm trying to bridge them to unless I have a full understanding of what's going on there. And also, like, I can, if they say like, oh, well, we don't have anything, it's like, they're not ready for Facebook ads yet, you know? So I can say, hey, like, you guys need to go do these things before you even spend money on running Facebook ads. So it's huge. All right, so that's kind of stage 2, but just to give you a bird's eye, and we're gonna go deep on this today, a bird's eye, there's then stage 3. Once you kind of get stage 2 mastered and you have, you know, your funnel rocking, you have audience and creatives that are working, things like that, stage 3 is kind of like your scaling stage. So how do I go from spending $100 a day on ads to spending $1,000 a day on ads and then $10,000 a day on ads, all pushing to the same funnel and offer, right? And so there's a bunch of different things that come here where it's like, different niches and audience angles and a bunch of different stuff, and then like different optimization techniques and things like that. That's a whole other animal. So we're not really going to touch on that at all today, just because me and Brigham felt like you guys are probably closer to the range of like in here. And so we want to give you the knowledge that's going to get you, results the quickest, and then hopefully you're, hit stage 3 and you're learning some more, and then at that time you can kind of take that knowledge in and learn it a little bit more. Make sense? Cool. All right, so what I kind of want to do is I want to just pull up some accounts and dive into some audiences that we have. We'll actually kind of do an audit as well of one of Brigham's accounts here a little further on. But I want to dive into audiences and creatives a little bit deeper here. So yeah, we'll drop that back down.
I feel like Vanna White. Thanks by Val.
I wish I could get this closer. Give me 2 seconds here.
Can we push that phone in? Let's try it. Maybe, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
This side won't lift. Is it on a hinge?
Might be, because there's different colored carpet underneath there.
Oh, okay.
If it's wired, then the wires are going to be
I'm like, either I'm really weak and Brigham is a beast, or this is bolted down to the ground on this side. I like to think it's the latter.
No, man, it's all that halo. You got strong fingers.
Dude, it's all the rock climbing gives me the strong fingers. All right, so we're gonna open up an account here.
And Ethan, as long as you stay between the speakers, then you're in the frame of the camera.
I'm in the frame, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, and I'm gonna, once I get us to a spot, we can look around. So this account that we're gonna look at is for a company called Joovv. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of them. It's Joovv. They create things, well, they don't create them. They sell red light therapy devices. And so what red light therapy devices are is there's a form of kind of light waves in a specific, I guess, spectrum that is very similar to the same spectrum of light put off by the sun at sunrise and sunset. And the reason that this spectrum is really cool is because it can penetrate your cells to a certain level and hit the mitochondria of the cell. Now, I don't know if all of you remember, but mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, all right? And so what that does is it increases energy production, which then has a bunch of amazing, awesome, side effects. Increased collagen production, increased energy levels, better sleep, in men, higher testosterone levels, things like that. And there's a ton of clinical studies on it, peer-reviewed and things like that since the 80s. And it was actually kind of discovered and developed by NASA because they had these astronauts going out for longer periods of time, and they were starting to notice that they were having negative effects by having reduced kind of sunlight intake, since they only had the smaller windows in the stations and things that take in sunlight. And so they wanted to figure out ways to kind of artificially replicate that. And the thing that's kind of hard but also fun about these devices is they're not cheap, all right? So it poses a specific kind of hurdle to overcome when you're running ads, because an entry-level device is like $1,100, and then they go all the way up to about $8,000. And the average purchase is probably somewhere in the 3,000 range, all right?
How much is the one that you own?
So the one that I have is like 4,500. Yeah.
He's got a full body one.
So yeah,
It's like a tanning machine.
I mean, to get the best results, you want it on your bare skin, so you're naked when you do it, and then you want to be exposed for 15 minutes on each skin side. So you can buy like the smaller panels, which are like $1,000, but then it's like you got to do 15 minutes here, move it 15 minutes, like you end up doing like an hour and a half treatment. So, I have like a 6 foot tall one that's like 3 feet wide, and so I can do like 15 minutes on one side, 15 minutes on the other side. And so when they came to us, they were spending like maybe $1,000 a month on Facebook ads, and they were running just specifically retargeting ads to people who are already coming to their site, things like that. And so our kind of goal and what we had to figure out was, okay, how do we scale their paid spend on Facebook, and specifically, how do we overcome the hurdle of having this high purchase price coupled with something that's fairly like complex to explain and most people have no idea what it is, and B, sounds like really woo-woo and like kind of made up, right? Yeah.
So you had already determined that they had their creatives and everything together and said, now we're to the scaling place?
So they didn't have any creatives or things together for ads, but what they did have together was a good funnel. And the way that we determined that was, before even turning on paid traffic, they were doing, about $100,000 a month in sales, and they were spending money on traffic in other places already. So like they would sponsor podcasts that were like health-related podcasts, things like that. And so we knew that their funnel converted, because unless it's for like our own products, I don't touch anything outside of Facebook ads. We don't like do funnel creation. We don't do anything like that. For our own products, obviously we do all that, but we don't take clients on that needs that. We only do Facebook ad management.
What's the wisdom in that?
The wisdom in that is some of it's personal preference. The wisdom in it for me is it's more of like a lifestyle choice, and it simplifies like our value prop. All we do is Facebook ads. We're experts at Facebook ads. Just because you're an expert at Facebook ads doesn't mean you don't know how to do all these other things. But like if we become an expert at like, we do Facebook ads, we do sales funnels, we do Google ads, we do like e-commerce sites, things like that, then you're never number one at something in somebody's mind. You're just like, oh yeah, they're good. And so when they're talking to somebody and talking about Facebook ads, you're not the first thing that pops into their mind, because like you also do sales funnels, you also do all these things. And so as soon as we said like all we do is Facebook ads, and we cut everything off and we only took Facebook ad clients, our like referrals increased by like tenfold, and like our reputation of like these guys are the best increased as well.
Same thing happened with me with Facebook, with Google Ads. I stopped doing web design, landing pages. I just focused on Google Ads, and exact same thing.
Yeah. So, and then it's easier to price. There's like less billing issues. There's like, you have to hire less people, because now I don't need to hire people for like that are specialists at sales funnels, things like that. All I need to worry about is ads management. And so you can get higher profit margins. It's easier to scale, things like that. So yeah, we figured out that they had the funnel, and then we came in, and our job was to look at what they were doing already and figure out, okay, what's the process to really make this work from cold traffic online. And so if you guys were kind of coming into a situation like that, what would be some of your like initial thoughts without kind of me diving into it or anything yet? Like let's list off a few things that you think would be important to like do or try to kind of move things forward.
Figure out the demographics for their customers.
Yep, absolutely. Figure out what their customer avatars look like. What else?
You can figure out the psychographics, because their behavior may not match the demographic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. Any other thoughts?
Maybe this is stupid, but how many times a client had to see the thing before they know it? What parts? This seems like it would require a decent amount of education.
Yeah.
So that this seems like it would be a longer sale,
Mhm.
even online, than it would be under some other kinds of products. And maybe it would take 4 times seeing it, or 7. And so creating a sequence of how people were going to view the product over time before they convert.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things that we'll look at is like, what's your average sales cycle length, right? Like, how long does it take somebody to convert after they come into your site for the first time, or things like that? That's really important to know. Any other thoughts?
I would look at what their current steps are in their funnel and what they're giving people at each stage in that funnel, and then figure out what my offers need to be to connect to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts?
Well, we talked about how if your ad goes to their website and not to the product landing page first, then the conversions are low. So you want to make sure that you're bringing them directly to the product landing page, right? Or is it different for this kind of product?
It depends. So you want to bring them to the landing page that connects most with the ad. And that'll make more sense here in a little bit. So like, if our ads were specifically like, hey, here's the Juve device, buy the Juve device, and you want, like, it's for the quad, which is like a bigger one, then yeah, absolutely, we need to be pushing them to it. But if we determine during this, like, hey, it doesn't make sense to push somebody straight to the device because they don't like know enough yet to really spend $4,000, we may say like, okay, what other resources do they have, or what other pages are there that we need to push them to first to maybe build an education that then would lead into a sale type deal. And so, but that would change based off of our ads. So we have some that run straight to products, we have some that run straight to different things, but I think overall the point from your comment would be making sure we're matching up our creatives and the landing pages. And so one of the big things we do is take account of all the resources that they have. Like with a store like this, you know, there's really multiple funnels through it, right? It's like, hey, you have the homepage, which could be a general funnel. It's probably like a weaker funnel, right? You have straight to product items that if somebody has an education level of the product is probably a little stronger funnel because there's less distractions. And then it's like, if you look up here, they have a whole learn section. Let's see if I can figure out how to work this thing.
It's not gonna.
It's not gonna work.
Green button, top one.
This top one right here? That top one. All right. So we have a whole learn section here. And so like, you know, if you go there, they have articles about specific benefits for specific items, things like that. And so it's like, oh, well, those could potentially be funnels if we're talking about, you know, performance or things like that. We want to maybe push people to a performance advertorial type deal. So absolutely. Any other thoughts?
Is there any way to gauge like qualifiers for how people interact with your ad, or like what sort of things they'll click through and find out how well they qualify or what their chances are?
Yeah, so there's rough things. So that's kind of the first one of like, it falls in kind of stage one a little bit of like that flawless Facebook ads formula. The main thing that we're doing, and for like the sake of like the formula and these examples, we're running what's called direct marketing campaigns. What that means is like, we want to spend $1 and we want to push a sale or a lead of some sort because we know that it will turn into more money. And we want to be able to measure how much money that ad spend actually turns into. And so we can actually measure like a return on ad spend over a set period of time. And so I kind of say that because these things change a little bit if you're running like a branding style campaign, which is like, really you shouldn't waste money on it unless you're like running for a political office or like a Kellogg's or something like that, right? And even when you're at that stage, a lot of them want to be able to measure their advertising. So with that said, in your kind of first setup of stage one, you should really make sure that you go through and you have like the Facebook pixel fully set up with all the information that you want passed back. So you have it on every single page. You're sending back to your site like all the purchase events. You're sending back to your site what the value of their purchase was. You're sending back to your site like lead events if they're opting into a landing page, things like that. And so if you've set that up with those, you can then gauge and segment your intent of the traffic that you've been sending, because you can say like, oh, well, this person added something to their cart. They're obviously a higher intent person than somebody who just visited the homepage or things like that, right? And this person initiated a checkout, so they're even higher intent than somebody who simply added to cart. So yeah, you want to make sure that that is all set up and that you've then set up your ad manager to be able to view that stuff very simply and easily without having to like search or dig for it. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just saying, the other thing you could do is you probably want to go through and see what their, because you said they're driving from podcasts, these everything, see what their hook story offer was from these other spaces or the other channels, and then you can see which ones were more effective and figure out whether it was the channel or was it the hook story offer.
Yep, absolutely. So perfect, guys. You guys listed a ton of great stuff. So I want to kind of dive into what we did initially and kind of show you what that process would look like. So obviously the first thing you do is you come in and you see like, hey, what are they currently running? So we've taken over this account and things like that. So this is kind of what we're currently running. But if I wasn't, you know, in this account yet, I would get access and I'd see, hey, what's going on? And then based off this, I want to know what's working. And I really only care about ROI. So in order to have a really good idea of what's working, what I need to do is I need to set up my top columns here in a way where they show me the metrics that I actually really care about. So by default, your columns aren't going to look like this. And every account is going to be a little bit different depending on like what it is. Like this is for an e-commerce store. If you were taking somebody through an info product, you would be looking at maybe different KPIs or key performance indicators, right? And so the way that you kind of set this all up is right here under your columns. You can see mine says AC and purchases. What that is that's a custom column setup that I've saved, and I just labeled it AC for add to cart and purchases, because I really wanted to see like what are my add to carts look like, what are my purchases look like off all these campaigns, what type of revenue have they generated, and what is my return on ad spend for these. But when I first come into a campaign, typically it's going to be on something that looks like this, just basic performance, which is just going to give you like some basic default stuff. So it's going to tell you your budgets, it's going to tell you results, which will then be based off of what you're optimizing for on your conversion-based or campaign-based optimization. So like you can see all these are different, like this one's leads, purchases, and then it'll tell you like, your cost per those results, your amount spent. But I have no idea looking at it this way, like, did we make money off of like this $280,000 that was spent, or did we not? And this means really nothing to me without the data. So the first thing we do is we come in here and we set up these columns. So if you hit this drop down again, you can come down to customize columns right here, and you'll just simply click on customize columns, and that's going to bring up a pop-up here for you that allows you to look through every reporting event that Facebook can show you. For kind of conversion-based campaigns and these direct marketing campaigns, generally you'll really only care about the stuff right here under conversions, standard events, and custom conversions. So what you can do is you'll come in here, and so what I did is I said, okay, I care about add to carts, I care about purchases, I care about revenue generated, and then I want to quickly see what my ROAS was, or my return on ad spend. So I'm going to come into my standard conversions. I'm going to come and I'm going to find add to carts, and I want it to show me my total add to carts. So I would click that right there. And when I do, it just kind of adds it to the right side on the bottom there. So you can see now on the bottom, it's going to show my add to carts. So now what I could do is I could move that up and structure it if I want it to be the first thing I see, whatever. I can change that all around. And then same thing, I would then scroll down, find purchases, I would find values, purchase values, and I would just add all the metrics that I actually care about. And then I would go ahead and hit apply right here. And then the final thing you have to do, so you don't have to do this every time you come into the ad account, is it says custom now, right? It's showing like what I customly showed. I need to hit this one more time and hit save and give it a name, all right? So that's what I did. That's why right here, now this drop down AC and purchases is there for me. So then, now I'm looking at this account and I actually can see the numbers that I care about and the business owner or yourself cares about on these campaigns. And then I can start diving into, okay, what are our options here? So the next thing that we did, since I didn't have a ton of data besides the retargeting, was there wasn't really anything that we could dive into as far as like what audiences they were really using, what creatives they were using for targeted audience and things like that. And so we sat down and we thought, okay, this technology has a ton of benefits. It can help with increased energy, it can help with improved sleep, it helps with like hormone balancing, and there's clinical studies showing that it can like reduce the need for thyroid medication if you have like what's it called, like Hashimoto's or something like that, and sometimes completely eliminates it. It has like increased testosterone for men. It helps with collagen production, and so it can help with like acne and all these things. So like there's this huge spectrum of people that could potentially be interested in it. Now, the difficult thing with that is, if we just run an ad and include like all those things, which is kind of what they were doing on the retargeting stuff, is like, hey, red light has all these positive results, like clearer skin, increased energy, and they just kind of bullet listed everything. That doesn't really stick out to anyone, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, there's this catch-all, and maybe we would catch a few people, but we're just too broad. And so we looked at like, okay, what are all the audiences that we could hit, and what type of messaging should we hit with them? So we sat down and we kind of brainstormed out like, okay, sleep. It helps with sleep. Let's list that as one. It helps with cognitive function. Let's list that one as one. Helps with performance. Let's list that as one. It helps with thyroid. Let's list that as one. And we're just listing everything, whether we know if there's targeting or not for it. We just want to list everything that we could possibly target and be a good audience for it. And then that gives us at least something to work off of for kind of step 2. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions about anything so far? Take a break in how?
Like now, as soon as you're ready.
All right, cool. And so after we have that list, what we're going to do then is we're going to hop into the ads manager and we're going to see how many of those actually have some viable targeting. So, if we're trying to target people with Hashimoto's because there's clinical trials that are peer reviewed and show that it can help reduce medication, Facebook isn't going to let us target people based off of an illness. It's just like against a ton of laws, right? So we know right off the bat that that is not going to be a targeting, but there may be other things. And so kind of the next step is exploring how we can figure out what targeting options we have. And that's what we're going to dive into and talk about after the break. But I think right now we'll take a quick break and then finish after.
Let's be back in our seats at 6:30, guys. Thank you.
Like it more?
Huh?
You like it in this way more?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Cool.
It's exactly what I want. It's fun the second time around. It's like you clear a couple things up on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Any luck with that car? They towed it?
I was talking to the guy. He said he's going to do full refund on the trip.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to get him to give us some credit for Ubers to the airport and back to the airport.
Nice.
So we'll see. Are you leaving right after?
Yeah, I can take you guys back and forth.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
That'd be awesome. Or we can take an Uber too.
Yeah,
It's not a big
either
deal.
way.
No, I don't mind. I'll do it.
If it's out of your way, take an Uber.
I'm on my way. Cool. We got this.
Any shots in particular you want now that you're in here? You can see everything.
No, just whatever you think is good. I'm not I think you've been doing a good job catching.
Because you're getting
talking to
the
people.
class as well.
Yeah. And every time I'm talking to people, you're getting stuff and things like that, which is good.
Maybe we get one at the end where you're standing here.
I love it. Everybody standing up.
Yeah, Ethan. Yeah, we'll in 5 minutes. We'll in at 7:40.
Okay.
And that'll allow. I want to just ask people what they want to play.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds good. I'm gonna actually go pee real quick.
Okay.
Safer.
I'm telling you.
crazy with that car, dude.
Wow, this here.
Oh, thank you.
The guy who came to pick it up, he's like, let me try whatever. He like boosted it or whatever. He's like, turn it on. He's like, and he starts walking away. I'm like, can I turn it off? He's like, I wouldn't if I were you. I'm like, well, I have to leave.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I should probably tow it then.
I wouldn't know. That's so funny. I mean, I don't think it would have stayed on even with the boost, because, like, if that was the case, it was running. It's not like we turned it off and it died. Like, it was running.
The battery, there's no battery left.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not producing enough power to, like, keep itself on, essentially.
Exactly. It's so funny, dude.
It's so wild.
Those kind of things you remember on a trip, right?
I know, this trip's been freaking crazy, huh?
It's been wild, like from the meow.
Like 9 hours worth of delays, random meow, car dies. It's been craziness. Crazy. Good.
I think we're getting good footage.
Yeah.
People are engaged. They're really answering a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's gone well. And like I can talk about this stuff forever, so like it's not like stressful or anything like that. You know?
I've heard everything that you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like just stuff that you actually like practice.
Yeah.
After this, are we just going back to crashing?
Yeah, we'll head back to the house and you know, I was just gonna hang out there. I know Brickham may go get dinner or something or food with some of the people. If you want to do that, you're welcome to tag along with them there. But, yeah. I'm just gonna like Postmate something, play some WoW with Ethan and then crash.
I'll probably just honestly go see it next time.
Yeah. And we're not done here until 8, you know what I mean?
What's that?
We're not done here until 8, so it's like by the time we get home to eat it, it'll be like 9 o'clock. That's what I'm saying, like just go crash.
And we're getting like
No, the flight's at 6 a.m. So I think we need to wake up at like 4 a.m. Maybe like a little after 4. I just don't know what traffic's going to be like. I don't think it's going to be crazy at 4 a.m. But
I mean, it's a Wednesday. Probably 4 to play.
Yeah.
Worst comes to worst, we'll sit in the lounge.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I bet you we'll be there early and it'll be like, oh my gosh, why do we wake up so early? But at least, like, we don't miss the flight that day, you know?
That would just be the cherry on top of it.
I know, dude. He normally stays with a buddy, but he says recently he's just been Airbnb in places so that it's just, like, easier. Yeah, so he must keep his car at his buddy's house or something, or parks at the airport parking.
But he drove up.
He flew in. Yeah. Yeah, he must.
I would definitely want that.
I know. Oh, man. No, I'm good. I'm just going to sit down for a second. Want some what? Oh, yeah.
Never said like what is why and like this guy from here showed me
that's definitely a 5-11. High school were awesome.
Yeah. It's so like no, absolutely. Yeah. But like I was
Oh, how's Danielle doing? Good. Living her best life.
Yeah. I just came across that, if you remember when we were in Texas, us. The stickers he had of his dog.
Yeah.
So they sold me some ads.
Uh-huh.
So I'll be like doing wedding ads and surprises.
Oh, that's cool. Have you already given them to her or no? Or you just ordered them?
I just ordered them.
Oh, that's cool.
And I got the results from his DNA today.
Uh-huh.
I haven't looked at them.
Oh, you haven't?
So I asked Zoe actually if she could print it out. So I don't really see them until I get returned too.
Okay.
I asked her if she could just print it out and put it in an envelope.
Yeah.
So I can like give it to her on her anniversary.
That'd be cool. That'd be super cool. It's the Wednesday, October 30th at 2 p.m. Ben's class, the one where he's going to do drop shipping from A to Z. I want to do this during class, but I'm just worried all the kinks are not worked out yet, so I want to like let a trial run happen before I actually do it in a class setting. Yeah.
Will that be filmed?
Yeah, it will be filmed probably.
The confidence definitely fell off right
Yeah,
there.
it'll be filmed probably.
Is it gonna be in this room?
Yeah, it'll be in this room.
Okay.
Tentatively in this room. And we're gonna
Potentially.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get back and started. Bring your attention back up here, and take it away.
Cool,
Ethan.
cool. Awesome. Any questions or any thoughts that you guys had while we were on the break or anything like that before I hop back into it?
Just one thing Mark and I were talking about was just, one, how much we appreciate tangible advice in the sense of like things that we can physically go do later.
Mhm.
Just because like we've noticed a difference between like when we get like the general scope, this is kind of how you do it.
Yeah.
We love it, but it also like we really want to be able to actualize as much
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
can. So that was just one thing that we talked about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I 100% agree on that. And one of the big questions that I was getting in last class and things like that is like, oh, like how much should you spend on an audience or a creative before like you cut things and stuff like that. And I'll give you guys some like general rules on stuff like that. But the truth is like this is a science. We're talking about some of the science, but there is a huge art involved in it as well, right? So it's like an art and a science. And unfortunately, to really see if the art is good, you have to spend money on the science. And then you can kind of look at that data and things like that. And so with a lot of that actionable stuff, there's just no guarantee. Like when we create all of these, it's not like, oh yeah, I know this one's gonna like pop off. Like I don't know. I'm putting like my best hypothesis out there, but realistically, like I'm just running a scientific method and then going through and evaluating the data every day and making decisions based off of that, and then potentially tweaking the art form of some of it as well. Yeah.
So when you walk into something like this, you go, wow, they spent $281,000 and they made $5 million. They've done pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Is this you?
That's me.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they were at like, I don't know, like 14,000 spent or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, and this might be a little off topic, and you might not even want to answer this, but what I'm just gonna ask, I'm curious. When you're going, when you're getting a new client and you're saying, hey, we can run your ads, be your ads manager, what are you asking them to pay you? What are like the way you structure your, what's the good, better, best way that you structure your payment with these companies?
Mm-hmm.
Like what are these deals actually looking like for you as an ads manager? Because I get all these numbers and how they back down. You're making leads convert. You're making them happy. But how do you set up those?
Yeah.
What's that conversation with these clients?
Yeah, so obviously if somebody is making money from something, they'll keep paying you forever, right? If you're the one causing them to make that money. And then on top of that, like I also want to be motivated to make them more money in some way. And so I set my pricing structure up in a way that they'll only pay more if they're basically making more, and then I get paid more when we're making more. So it motivates us to like really get these dialed in and try and spend as much ad spend for them profitably, because that's how we make more money. And so it basically ties our goals together. So the way that I do that is I price based off of the amount of ad spend that we manage in a month. And I base that off of tiered segments. Some people will do like, oh, well, we charge a flat 10% of ad spend or things like that. I hate that pricing model because I have to bill after the month is over and after I've done all the work. because I don't know the specific amount of ad spend it's going to be. And then you'll get cash flow gaps. All right, like if you need to expand and you need to hire people, like you're always waiting 30 days to get paid. Plus, it usually extends out a little longer than that because like they don't pay invoices directly on time, things like that. So I don't bill based off of set percentage. Instead, I looked at, okay, most people charge somewhere between 10 and 20% of ad spend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bill out and I'm going to set a minimum fee. So our minimum is, if you want us to manage ads for you, the minimum is $1,500 a month. And what that covers is up to $5,000 a month in ad spend managed. So if you're only spending $1,000 a month in ad spend, you're still paying us $1,500. So in that situation, generally, like that's not a good client for us, and I'll just tell them straight up, like, you're not a good fit for us because it's going to be really hard for me off of $1,000 in ad spend to make them more than $2,500 and actually make like profit on that, especially if they have cost of goods, things like that, right? And then the way that it scales is in $5,000 tiered increments on ad spend. So next tier is $5,000 to $10,000 in ad spend, and our fee goes up by $500. So then you would pay us $2,000. Next tier is $10,000 to $15,000, and it's $2,500, things like that. So then at the start, like with a brand new client, they typically will say like, first month we probably want to spend about $7,000 or things like that. And so it's like, cool, we'll bill you $2,000 the day that we turn ads live, and then we keep a card on file. And at the end of every month, it's just we reconcile and rebill. So if we ended up like if halfway through the month we were crushing it, and they're like, hey, let's crank this up as much as we can, and we ended up spending $15,000 that month, then we would need to reconcile, $1,000 for that previous month, and then rebill again at a $15,000 price point. So then, it would be, I don't know, like $4,000 or $5,000 or something like that we would charge at that point. And so that's how we kind of bill it all out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw one here, and then I'll go down to you. Yeah.
So can I just say, first off, I love how this ties into what Brigham was saying about how he sets up his pay structure with his employees, how you align like your goals with the goals that your clients have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome. This kind of goes, it's a question from something you mentioned earlier. You said sometimes you'll talk to clients and you'll tell them to be like, oh, you're not ready for Facebook ads, you're not ready for Facebook.
Uh-huh.
I just want to know, like, what do you look for to make sure that somebody is ready? Like, what should we, even with our products, be looking for before we take that step and, like, run Facebook ads? Is there anything?
So, I mean, the biggest indicator is, like, have they made any sales yet, right? So, for example, I think Matt had asked, like, how did you know Juve's funnel was good? And I said, they were doing over $100,000 a month already on their own. And so I knew that they were already making sales. There was already audiences responding to the product, things like that. So when you run an agency, you have like the, I guess, liberty to be picky because it's not like you're starting something from scratch. And so we only take clients that are already generating sales, and maybe that started lower, like then and now has kind of raised up because we only want to work with a certain kind of type of clientele. So that's kind of the biggest indicator. Now, when you're launching your own thing, obviously everybody starts from scratch. And so then it becomes like, okay, well, how do I know if this will be good? And the truth is there's no guarantee. That's where that kind of science and art comes into play. And I'll kind of show you in a little bit more how I kind of hedge my bet on some of those things by looking at what competitors in a similar niche are doing and trying to see like how they've modeled, how they're running their traffic, if they've been spending a lot on ad spend, if it's been running for a long time, what type of product are they leading it to, things like that. Then I know like, okay, there's probably an audience for this and a need for this product because somebody else is already selling it. And so that gives me a little bit more confidence in it. And now I just need to look at different ways that people are structuring their sales pages and their funnels and then roll out a best practice type deal there.
Yeah, just to comment on this, like, marketing perspective, when I started, I just took on anything I could. So most of my clients were paying me $150 to $500 a month. That was like the average pay for that time. And then I got one client who started at $15,000 spent, which was my highest spending client ever. And we brought him up to $65,000 spend within like 6 months or so, and he was paying me about 15%. So I was making about $7,500 off one client, and then I had like 20 clients who were paying me like $150 to $500, and it's like I'm literally spending the same amount of time on this $150 to $500 client as I am the $7,000 client. It made absolutely no sense, right? Absolutely no sense. So I literally fired all those other clients, even though I made an extra 2,000 or 3,000. I just said I'm done. I'm done taking on small clients. If you want to spend at a minimum $10,000 a month, at an average $20,000 to $40,000 a month, I'm interested. Other than that, I'm not interested. And and just like I just want to get your comments on this as well. But like from that point on, I started getting way better clients. Like people would refer people to me only if they would refer high-end clients. Because something has to be said, it's a lot bold. I only had one good client at the time, but it's something to be said. If somebody's only taking on clients at 20,000 plus spends, these guys gotta know what they're doing, right? They wouldn't be taking on these kind of clients otherwise. I mean, did you see something like in terms of credibility that happened once you started finding your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And it becomes easier to get results. Like it's way easier to just like keep rolling a snowball than it is to like start a snowball from scratch and like get it rolling, right? Like it takes way less energy to keep something moving than it does to get something moving. And so if you're taking clients that already have something moving, like you're gonna be able to get it moving even faster, quicker, which then increases your like skill, like how you're viewed as an expert, plus then like you make more money.
Yeah.
So absolutely. But you will find, I mean, depending on your goals and your agency, you will find that there's potentially like a sweet spot of like what they're spending per month. For example, for a long time I had a client that they came in and they were spending maybe 30 grand a month, and we scaled them up to doing like close to $400,000 a month in ad spend that we were managing just for that one client. And when you're at that scale, we're spending over like $10,000 a day on Facebook. Like it takes a lot of work on a single offer. It was a $29 DVD, mind you, random, to these older women that dance DVD. We tried to do it digital, but they all wanted DVDs, so. And when you're doing that, like things decay really quick. You have to change copy really quick. Like something's only good potentially for like half a day sometimes. You know what I mean? Audiences crush out, and so it takes a lot of work. And what happened with that is like I couldn't hire the quality like a high enough like off the street somebody who could jump into that and help manage that as soon as possible. So it kind of all fell on me. And it was amazing at first because I was getting like $40,000 checks from a single client every month, right? And you're like, this is dope. And then you realize like, then I'm at Disney World with my wife and I'm pulling out my laptop and she's like, why is your laptop here? And it's like, I have crushing anxiety because I have no idea like how this account is doing, and like I could burn $10,000 today, you know what I mean? And so like it cripples like other parts of your life. And so eventually I let that client go because like that was out of my sweet spot at that point. And so now I know like, okay, our sweet spot is like 150,000 sub per month, and like that is still gives me the lifestyle that I really enjoy.
Did you give that client to somebody else? How'd you do it?
No, I told them that I thought they would be better off if they hired an in-house team and hired like multiple people to take it over, and then let them like, it wasn't like I'm stopping tomorrow, but like I gave them like 6 months to transition so they could find somebody, and that's how I did it. Because I mean, when you think about it, they were paying us $40,000 a month. I mean, that's like what, 500 grand a year. Like you can hire like 3 people at 100 grand a year each and do that same thing. Yeah.
What's your current setup like? Do you have a team of guys that run this for you?
Yeah, so right now it's just me and Labe. So Labe's here helping me out, shooting some video and stuff. But it fluctuates. So like, I think we have like 10 bigger clients right now, and so we can just kind of handle it, the two of us. I'm trying to get out of like doing the day-to-day of a lot of that stuff. But I have to come in a lot more, and just sometimes clients come in and sometimes they leave, and so it kind of is always changing.
So 10 good clients between the two of you guys is fairly manageable.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And if you get like good and productive, like you could manage that solo. Like I could and I have managed it solo.
That time into it, you could.
Yeah, and I mean, if you get effective, it's not even necessarily a huge time kill, just depending on the systems that you have set up. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. All right, let's hop back into it then. All right, so we were talking about, we make our list of audiences, and then kind of the next step in our research is like figuring out which one of those, what audiences there are viable, all right? So what I would do is kind of, hop into that account itself and just create an ad set anywhere. It doesn't really matter if it's an existing campaign or anything like that, because we're not going to turn it live. We're just kind of using it to see some of our targeting metrics here. So let's see, I want to go into, I didn't have a campaign select. So I would go into like any of these campaigns, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And I'm just going to name this ad set something so that I can see my ad set level settings, all right? So once I'm in here, then I can come down to my targeting options. And initially, if you're starting from square one, or the store doesn't have a ton of assets for you to work with audience-wise, you're going to have to start with interest-based targeting, all right? What that is that just, Facebook knows based off of pages you like, things that you do, general like interests that you would fall into. There's general like demographic behavior that they're allowed to let you target off of, as long as it's not like outside of any laws. And so you can kind of explore what that looks like there. This is, I would say, like your like bottom of the barrel audience creation, all right? The next level up and what you really want to get into is like lookalike audiences built from assets that the store already has. So, if luckily they were spending a little bit on Facebook, so they did have like some purchase conversion events pushed over. They were doing, $100,000 a month themselves, so I could request like, hey, can you send me an email list of all your past purchasers? And I can upload that and create audiences off of that. And so I knew like that's going to be my higher level traffic. But initially, if we want to kind of scale our ad spend out, I knew that wasn't going to be enough to like really spend it out. Plus, we wanted to know like which angles really converted off of people. Like, was it thyroid? Is it talking about sleep? Is it talking about performance? Like, which one of those really convert the best? And when you're creating lookalikes, there's no way for you to control like, hey, give me a lookalike of people who only like, working out or things like that. Like, it's just going to give you a lookalike of people that are similar to people who bought. So if you only sell a workout product, then yeah, they're going to be people who like working out. But Juve had so many benefits that they could be across the whole spectrum, right? So what we do then is we start to, like, let's say we're using thyroid and we want to research, okay, we know we can't, target people who have a specific illness, so we want to research things around thyroid. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start to type in like thyroid.
Hey Ethan, can you maybe hit the command plus maybe 1 or 2 times and zoom in a little bit?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
There we go. Perfect. So I'm going to then type in thyroid, and I'm going to kind of see what comes up here. So we have like stop the thyroid madness. My guess would be that's probably like a page that people are liking. We have the American Thyroid Association, probably like another page that's like a thyroid association that people are liking. The British Thyroid Foundation, Mary J. Showman, thyroid advocate, probably also like a page, maybe like an author or somebody. Looks like still Mary again, maybe had a author right there. Hashimoto's thyroid support group, so probably like a group or a page for people who have Hashimoto's. And so now I see like, okay, there is some targeting around thyroid, and I want to see how like viable it is size-wise. And so I'm going to come over and I'm going to see like, okay, this page has 190,000 people in it, so that's all right. That's enough. That's something. We got this with 78,000. 7,900, 300, that's not really anything, 24, I don't even know why that's a targeting, 48,000. And so it's like, okay, these look like if I bunch these together, I could probably make at least a decent size audience to maybe test some thyroid style targeting too. So I'd start to add those in, and then after I add in a couple, I would say like, all right, let's just see if there's maybe other things that Facebook would suggest that are similar to this. And so we have hormone, like that one we can see is like really big. So it's like, okay, that is related, right? Thyroid regulates hormones, so maybe women in hormone might be more interested in this just because they tend to have more thyroid issues than men. But since it's so big, I don't really want to muddy my other kind of audience with that. So I would maybe make a note of that and say, okay, I'm going to create another ad set with that audience only since it's so big, and test that. You know, wellness and things like that, that's not really close enough for me to think like thyroid makes sense in that. And so now I can come in here and I can say like, okay, thyroid messaging probably has about 2 audiences that we can test off of it and maybe have enough people in them to make sense. And I would go down and I would do this for every kind of niche or angle that we kind of brainstormed on that list, like performance, sleep, things like that, and just figure out what my audience potential looks like there.
Yeah, Ethan, what's a good audience size depending on, you know, geo-targeting? So like you're like in a city or a state versus if you're like in a country, what are good audience sizes?
Yeah, so that's all gonna vary based on how much data your account has and that how much information you've pushed through your pixel. So there's kind of like 2 tiers of, I guess, like data. The first one is like you're starting in a brand new ad account and you haven't told Facebook anything yet. Like it doesn't really know who's purchasing your item. It doesn't really know who's adding it to cart because it just hasn't got any traffic, and so there's no data there. There's others where it's like Juve, at this point we've sent a ton of purchase data to it, things like that. What's happening on these kind of ad sets is we're optimizing for a specific event, right? Because it's a conversion-based campaign. And so we're optimizing for purchases. So what is happening in the background is every time Facebook gets a purchase event from us, it's kind of like putting that person in a bucket and saying like, okay, we know this purchase event was from Ethan Sigmund. Let's put them in this bucket of purchasers for Juve. And then when it gets enough people in that bucket, it's kind of running analysis on those on the back end and saying like, are there any commonalities that these purchasers have and things like that? And then it's using that data when you're running a conversion-based campaign to micro-target in the audience that you specify. So let's say we specify a huge audience of 50 million for hormone, but we're running a conversion-based thing and we're telling it purchase and it has a bunch of data on it. It's going to say, okay, yeah, we'll play in the sandbox that you've created, but on the back end, without showing you what we're doing, because we have more data than we're legally allowed to share with you, we're going to target even deeper. And we're going to basically cut out like 30% or 50% or even maybe 90% of this audience because we know they're not good fits based off of the people who have historically purchased and engaged off of your ad. So if your account has a lot of data, you can go way wider on your audiences than you can if you're starting from scratch. If you're starting from scratch and have no data, you want to control the sandbox more because that's really the only targeting that it has. It's not able to use any of its deeper learning until you start to feed it more data. So with that said, you know, on a brand new account, if you're selling like nationally, you know, I like to play in like the 2 million range for my audience size, because if you get too finite, you hurt yourself. Like you don't give Facebook's algorithm enough room to perform its tests that it's going to perform. So you need to like give it enough room to kind of play, but also you don't want to just let it run wild because it doesn't know enough yet. Once you have data, you can go wider. If you're in a city, you know, your audiences are just going to be smaller by nature. So the biggest thing that I see people do is like they'll target cities and then they'll like try and layer a bunch of interest and they'll cut their audiences down to like 5,000 people or like 2,000 people. Like you're just not going to get delivery because it's just too small. So, you know, when we're doing local stuff, we'll usually just do like, you know, drop a pin on the address of the business we're trying to promote for and open the radius up, you know, 5 or 6 miles or whatever it would make sense to travel to the business, and then do like a loose targeting. Like, is it primarily women that are going to this, or is it, you know, more of like people between this age range or things like that? And that will be about all that we'll do. Side hand here and then here.
You already answered my question.
Okay, cool.
So I assume it's more expensive as you get more detailed. So the beginning, generally, you're gonna, because you have nothing else to work with, you gotta be pretty specific. So that way you can just get good data so you can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Have you found any tricks of the trade as far as, so there's an individual that last Ben, he talked about reaching out to like Instagram and trying to get followers to go ahead and post your link or your ad or your product. Have you guys done any of that kind of stuff, or since you already have all the data, you don't really need to do any of that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting from scratch, you want to do anything that you can to like precede your pixel. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, with Juve, their pixel was somewhat preceded already because they were doing $100,000 in sales, right? And so they had the pixel installed already, and so it had been telling Facebook like, hey, these people purchased, and it can't match 100% of those people because they didn't all come from Facebook, but it can match a pretty high percentage of it because most people never log out of Facebook even if the tab's closed, and so it knows like, oh, this browser or this phone is associated with this Facebook account, and it'll match it. And it'll send those purchase events back. So yeah, you could use Instagram influencers. You could use, like, you could pay to do a blast to somebody's email list so that they would kind of push purchases and like precede the pixel for you. The biggest thing is you just want to make sure the pixel's installed and sending back those events before you do that. Yeah.
How important is managing audience overlap in what you do?
Speak up some.
How important is managing audience overlap?
It doesn't matter anymore. It used to hurt you because you were competing technically with yourself on the bids if your audiences were overlapped, but Facebook's changed it so they monitor at an account level that you never bid against yourself at an account level.
Can you explain what audience overlap is?
Yeah, so like for example in this, let's say we created this audience that had all these kind of specific thyroid things like Stop the Thyroid Madness, you know, all those other ones, and it maybe gave us an audience size of 500,000, right? And then we created another ad set that was just this hormone ad set. Some people are going to would fall into both of those audiences. That's just the nature of the beast. And so that's audience overlap, where it's like we're running one ad set that has people that would fit into both targeting spectrums. And in the past in Facebook, it was everything's an auction, right? So you're bidding to show your ad to these audiences. So technically you're bidding to show your ad to John here in this audience, and you're bidding to show your ad to John here in this audience. And so you're just intrinsically bidding against yourself and driving your own costs up. What they've done now is they have an algorithm on the back end that is like set to the account level of, oh, okay, if these ad sets are in the same account and they're both trying to target John, we won't let it bid against themselves. What they really do is they exclude John and put him into only one audience on the back end without you telling, so you're never actually bidding against him twice. Makes sense?
Is that how long has when did they make that change? Has that been around for a while?
About like a year.
And my other question is, so you said lookalikes are obviously best. Do you have any points where you feel like this number of people actually turns into a good lookalike?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, if you only have 5 purchases, that's not really
Yeah.
anything, right? But
I know, that's a great question. So the minimum to even create a lookalike that Facebook requires is 100 people in the same country that you're trying to create that lookalike for. So when you go and create a lookalike audience, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, take this custom audience and give me, 1% of the population in XYZ country, and I want them to be similar to this. So if I had like 100 people that purchased my product and they were all Brazilian and I wanted to try to create an American lookalike, I couldn't do it because I don't have 100 American people in my custom audience. So that's kind of the minimum. That is really not enough to make a really strong lookalike. The other side of the spectrum, you could think like, oh, well, we have like a custom audience of like 50,000, so that's going to be awesome. We'll create a super sweet lookalike from that. You also run into the same problem, like you have so many people that it becomes hard to find like a really core like thing that links them all together of why they all purchased that. So you kind of can hit both ends of the spectrum. So what we found like a really sweet spot for lookalikes is audiences between 1,000 and 4,000. And so you can cut your own ones down by taking only like 4,000 of people that's on a list or things like that and creating lookalikes off of that. Even better than that is, if you're pushing back purchase data, taking the 4,000 highest LTV customers that I've ever gone through, and then create a lookalike off of them or things like that.
So just what you were talking about earlier, where Facebook's like gathering this data based on the conversion events that
you're targeting, some people with thyroid and some people with for sleep, those are different audiences, but they're both purchasing. So how does does that kind of muddy things for Facebook's algorithm?
Yeah, it does a little. Obviously, the ideal thing would be oh, I wish we could throw a unique event for every single ad targeting niche. Just programmatically, it's possible, but it's quite expensive to kind of program off of that. We'd have to maybe throw specific UTMs for each one, and then have something that threw specific events based off of the UTM and things like that. So it's not ideal. But it's not the end of the world.
UTMs are those at the end of the links. You know how it says the question mark and then stuff after? Those are called tokens, parameters, or UTM tracking.
Yeah.
So those are custom parts of the link that tell Facebook what just happened, or Google.
Yeah. Just a way for you to kind of segment your own traffic if you want to dive deeper on stuff.
Sorry, one more question. So when I create a custom conversion, you just kind of title it whatever you want it to be, but then you kind of assign it to one of the standard events. Is that just so that it knows what type?
Yeah, where in the funnel that traffic would flow essentially. Yeah. Cool. All right. No other question there. Perfect. All right. So that's kind of what we're looking at out of audiences. And like I said, the two main pieces here are your audiences and your creatives. So now we've kind of brainstormed our audiences, we've figured out what's has viable targeting, and we've determined what we're gonna test there as far as here's what we're gonna initially go with. Now it comes down to our creative level of figuring out what we're gonna serve to each one of these people. And this is where, a lot of people will make mistakes. They'll create the same ad and they'll serve it to every single audience and things like that, where they all need to be treated in a unique way. So for example, if we hop into some of these campaigns here, you can see we have this sleep campaign that was running. We come in here, we have a targeting based off of some sleep and insomnia. And then we can see kind of the ads that have been created in here. Now this ad right here is gonna be completely different and have totally different copy, image, creative, everything from the ad that we're running to a thyroid audience or a paleo audience or things like that. So this is a video about getting better sleep every night, and then the copy on this is really short. I don't think this is one we're actively running right now. I'm not sure why. Yeah, and really short and sweet, right? One of our best performers is this creative right here that I'll pull up.
Interesting that a picture did better than a video in this case.
Yeah. And again, we test everything just using that flawless Facebook ads formula, right? So we rolled out video creative, we rolled out an image creative, split test them across each other, and we saw different results there. So this one, just a black and white image, and then one of the other big things that we went through and tested was the copy on these. You can see that this copy is way longer and bigger than it was on that video. This copy and what we found with kind of Juve and a lot of these angles that we're taking is that since it is something that's medical and typically something they've never heard of, if we can hook somebody, they're willing to read if we provide facts and deeper information about the actual medical science behind it. So a lot of this copy is citing clinical studies and some basic information about that. And then we're pushing specifically to a page that's about sleep and goes super deep on the studies based on sleep and red light therapy and how it applies, and then has a call to action to buy a device essentially.
One thing I was wondering is when you're providing data or information that's pulled from somewhere, I'd wondered whether or not we needed to cite it or something like that. It looks like you don't.
Yeah, I mean
Facebook doesn't require.
Yeah, Facebook doesn't require any citing. They don't give you a really easy way to cite. The page that you hit, we have full citation there and things like that. Especially in the medical industry, you want to make sure you're above board on everything. Juve is FDA approved for the things that we kind of push to and stuff like that, and so they have clearance there. But we've cut different targeting because it's it's kind of in a gray area. It's not we're not saying this cures or heals anything, and there are clinical studies that support our claims, but we're not FDA approved for it, so let's not run there, or things like that. So you just got to be mindful of that. One question here, and then you next.
It might be too specific, but have you done a test on using emojis and not using emojis to grab attention?
Yeah.
Is there a difference or no difference?
I mean, yes. For Juve, using emojis was better. There's other accounts that we have where it's worse. So that's part of the data and spending, and where this implementation comes in is you just got to test everything and just do it in a really controlled way. So for Juve, we saw that emoji performed better, and so we'll use it in most of our ad copy now with it. Obviously not over the top, but just instead of using bullet points, we're kind of using these and different stuff like that.
Okay, a couple of things I want to go over here. Just can you scroll down so we can see the full ad? So let's see the bottom part. What's this call to action? Learn more, right? Clinical studies show red light help learn more. It's an interesting call to action, right? I mean, why would he not say buy now? Yeah, maybe it's it's a $1,000 plus product, right? If you hit buy now, you might not be ready to buy, so you might not click on it, right? Now scroll up a little bit. Notice this copy and how long it is. And he talked about how he tested long form versus short form. Why do you think that this works better than short form for this product?
It's informative, it looks legit.
Yeah. It's interesting, when I was doing diet pills, we had this site that we created called Top 10 Diet, Top 10 Garcinia Cambogia, Top 10 green tree extract or green coffee extract. And the top 4 products are the same product that we own, with just a different name. They're totally false. But instead of sending them to the actual pages, we sent them to a top review page. People like to feel like they've done some research before buying something that's $3,000. So having a lot of information, studies and stuff where people feel informed about something, they feel a lot more confident to make a decision to purchase. That's part of his landing page experience right here.
Yeah.
And another point on this is, notice how instead of saying click here to learn more, it just has the little arrow right there with the emoji there. Now, could you run this same ad on Instagram, you think?
Yeah, so we run the same ad on Instagram. One of the things, though, that you'll see is your links aren't going to be clickable in your copy on Instagram, because this whole area goes under the image where your kind of caption would be. So, it's easier and faster to use the same one on all platforms, but you get some people who are like, oh, I can't click the link, things like that. They don't realize you can just click the image itself and it takes you to the page. And so on Instagram, what we'll do is we'll take this same copy, and then we'll, instead of kind of having the hand and the link, we'll say click, and then we'll put in parentheses and whatever our call to action is. So on this one is learn more. Click learn more to XYZ, whatever our CTA is, so that then people know specifically what they need to do to go to the next step. That's the biggest thing. You don't realize, you think some of those things are no-brainers, especially all of us. It's we've grown up using technology. We've seen it's oh yeah, you try and click stuff if you want to go somewhere or things like that. But you need to be very specific on what you want somebody to do next, no matter where it's at, whether it's on your ad, whether it's on the landing page, things like that, and be as clear and intuitive as possible.
So what happens when he runs those? See how he has paragraphs and spacers? What happens if you put that same ad onto Instagram? Yeah, it all goes into one, right? So how do we fix that? Do you guys remember? Yeah, you literally have to go find a spacer on the Google and copy and paste that in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to show you how to do it way quicker than that.
You got another way?
Yeah, there's a site where you just copy and paste it in, and then you click copy, and it gives you it completely formatted for Instagram. And you just have to.
Oh, you just use a site? Oh,
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
He's got the tricks.
How do you prioritize what to A/B test? Does Facebook have within its algorithm, does it have some kind of priority? Text is more important than the photo, or any kind of?
So they don't have a priority in the algorithm. What we've found is audiences are the first thing that we always test. Inside of audiences, the most important thing next is the creative. So whether that's image, video, whatever. And then the third thing is your copy. And so that's kind of the order we'll go in. We'll go audiences first. So we broke down and we brainstormed all those audiences. Inside of all those audiences, what we would do is we would only create one single ad at first. For every single one of those audiences, it would, in this case, since we're taking different angles, They would all have different copy because their copy would be specific to like their angle, but there would only be one ad in there. They would all be running, it would have the same image, etc. And then we would figure out like our top performing audiences from that, and then we would go deeper with those, and we would test like our images first, so like video, image, etc. And then we would go through and do copy next, and so on and so forth.
Can you go to your ads, your campaigns, ad sets and ads? This is within one, so go to the ad section, and then go ahead and click that X on the right hand side so we can go back to like see all of the ads in the ad set, or that too, yeah. It's kind of interesting. He's got one ad set selected, but he has a lot of ads in there. So Ethan, what's going on? I thought you had the flawless Facebook point. What's going on here?
Yeah, so I create all my ads in the same ad set because your data is on the ad set level. So if I'm testing ads, I want to test them in the ad set because, like, for example, this one's pushed 39 purchases already and done almost 50,000 in sales. So like all that data is on my ad set level. And so currently you can see like we have like 3 turned on, but only like 2 running right now. The reason we have that is because we've already tested these, and we know like what, as far as image and things like that, these are both proven out. And so I'm just running them both right now because it will reduce my frequency without me having to come in and manually every day like swap things. But what I did is when I'm testing a new creative, like let's say I want to A/B test like this image against this video, and this has been running already, I'm turning this off and I'm turning this one on, and it all stays in the same ad set.
So it's the same function as if we ran multiple ad sets with one ad in it. But in this count, then you're saying that the data actually, conversion data stays the same.
Yeah, it stays the same, and if I had more like budget, since we're testing so many audiences, like it's like how much do you want to spend every day, right? Like if I had more budget, I would have them all in different ad sets, and they would all be individual ads, and they would all have their own dedicated budget, and that way they could all be spending simultaneously. But instead of running a simultaneous split test, what I did in here is I ran a time-based split test. So I would let this get data for a week, and then I would turn it off and I would run the other one in the same ad set for a week. So I didn't have to spend more money. I could just spend a little bit more time on each one, if that makes sense. Because we were running so many other tests. Because inherently in this, we were already testing all the different audience niches and angles and things like that.
To compare apples to apples, do you spend the same budget on one ad one week and then on the other ad the other week so that way you can see the conversion data, or how do you do that?
You don't have to spend the same budget over the same amount of time, but you do want to look at like a similar spend amount. So for example, what I mean is, let's say this one I was spending $20 a day and I ran it for a week, so I would have spent $140 over a week. And I am thinking like, okay, I want to test another creative, but I don't want to wait a whole week to like figure out which one's better. I can then bump the budget up on the other creative and spend $50 a day and get that same information in 3 days type deal. So you just want to hit the same amount, but time isn't really important. Any other questions?
So you said data's on the ad set level. Is that still that way, even with like CBO coming out, how it optimizes the ad sets kind of for you?
Mm-hmm.
It's still on the ad set level?
For the most part, what we've been seeing, yeah, it still sits pretty well on the ad set level. There is carryover to like the whole account, and which would fall into the campaign level, but it's not as like targeted, if that makes sense, so, or effective. So if you're preceding a pixel and pushing conversion events, like you don't have any ad sets running, and so it's like if it was only on the ad set level, that wouldn't do you any good. But it does help kind of feed the algorithm a little bit. But like the prime, like the best stuff is all on the on the ad set level. If you can keep it on the ad set level, like that's the best. But big changes erase your data. So like, for example, that's why those are all separate ads instead of editing an ad and making a new one. Because if I edited the ad, I would lose all my data on it. So if I can't just run an ad set and say, oh, I got it. I can't just run an ad set and say like, okay, I want to keep all my data on this ad set and I want to test a different audience. So I'm not going to create a new ad set. I'm just going to edit the audience in this ad set. Because as soon as I do it, resets all your data on that ad set anyways. So create a new ad set, and that way you can look at them both and see historical data and always know what's associated with what. Does that make sense?
So you can change text, pictures, videos, all that kind of stuff, but once you change the audience, that'll be what resets it. Is that what you're saying?
No, you can create new ones. You can create new ads in an ad set, and that's not going to affect your data on the ad set. But if you edit, like if I came in here and I edited like the copy on this ad, it would, even the smallest edit, it would erase all my data on this ad and any social proof we have. So like right now it has like 54 likes, things like that. All that would be erased, and then the data for that specific ad would be erased. I would still have my ad set level data, so it's not like the end of the world, but I would lose all my like social.
How important, for example, is that social data?
I mean, it definitely helps. I can't put it into like a quantifiable amount for sure, and sometimes like it's pointless, but it definitely helps. You know what I mean? Like if you can keep it type deal. Yeah. But it's hard to say like, oh, you'll see a 20% increase type deal. Yeah, perfect. Question here, and then we're gonna move forward.
How do you deal with the clutter of having all of those ads that you just have to turn off, turn off, turn off?
Just have a naming convention that you know and like. So for me, on like the ad level, I just name based off creative. So like you can see like this is B&W well rested, so that's like black and white well rested. This one says waking up, and then it has a dash that says then Sleeplander. So if it has something and then has a dash, after the dash is always telling me like what landing page we're pushing it to, if I'm testing a different landing page or something like that. Because you can see here we have like waking up dash post. So we've already ran this waking up one. The only difference in these is I'm testing same image, same copy, everything. I'm just testing a different destination, so I need to note that somewhere. And so then that's kind of my naming convention. I don't think there's end all be all way to do it, just like how you like to function. And then if anybody else is going to be in the ad account, train them on that. And then at my ad set level, kind of similar, we'll kind of name off of audiences and potentially then put landing pages that we're pushing to or things like that. And so just using a naming convention. Awesome. And then you had a question back here?
I did. Are all of your creatives original?
Yeah.
So you're taking pictures and doing the videos and everything yourself, or you're just finding it, or?
Yeah. No. That's a great question. So, for example, like these are not images that we took. These are images from a stock photo site. Normally we don't use like a lot of stock photos, but it's something that we tested. So like these, like this video here, this video here, this image here, these are all like images that they took and created, like they're unique. And we saw like, hey, this sleeping image was performing really, really well, but it decays out, everything decays out. And so then it's like, okay, well, we gotta make another sleeping image. Like I'm not a photographer, I'm not gonna rely on stuff. I'm gonna test one from a stock photo site that's similar and see how it performs. If it like maintains, then I know I can use stock photo stuff in this type deal.
What's the typical decay time?
It's not a time frame thing, it's more of a budget-based thing and frequency. So, it's the biggest thing that I look at. I mean, the biggest thing that you want to look at for your decay is like, what's your ROAS? So, for us with Juve, we know if anything is over 5 on their ROAS, they're super happy.
What does that mean, ROAS?
So ROAS is your return on ad spend. And so, for example, like right here, we're saying we have a 4.4 ROAS. What that means is for every dollar that we spent, we made $4.14 back. So you can see like our purchase conversion values was $590, and our ad spend was, it's off of this page. Our ad spend was $142 here. So, $590 divided by 142.48 gives you 4.14. So that means every dollar we put in, they got $4.14 out type deal. So for them, they're extremely happy if they have 5. They have some cost of goods, things like that, plus they want like a certain margin. So if anything's over 5 ROAS, we're given liberty to spend as much money as we possibly can on it type deal. So what I'm looking at is like, okay, what's my ROAS? If it's down, then I start to investigate more. Like, okay, is my frequency really high? Is it maybe down because like this has seen a ton of people and so it's decayed? This frequency is low, 1.42. Like that means over this time period that's selected up here, people only saw that ad 1.42 times on average. Typically, like you'll start to see decay at like on a cold audience, like a three frequency over like a 3 to 7 day period type deal.
What's a good frequency to look at for, what's a good date range to look at to understand frequency?
Like 3 to 7 days.
So he's on lifetime right now.
Yeah. Right now is lifetime, so I wouldn't like even pay attention to these frequency numbers at all. Yeah, right here and then back there.
And do you ever just recycle ads?
Yeah, absolutely.
The purchase conversion value, so like how is that calculated? Because you said like the cheapest product is $1,000.
Yeah.
Somebody bought something for $5.90, but how does that work out?
Yeah, so that's sent back from their store. So on average, the cheapest product is $1,000, but they do have like a handheld of one that's cheaper. So yeah, it does work out. But like if you're getting into like an actual system, it's $1,000. But we're not trying to focus on the cheap, the like $5.90, $2.98 or something like that, whatever it is. So we're not really even trying to pay attention to that per se. That's one of the reasons that this is off. It's like, okay, yeah, we're not far off on that 5 like ROAS, but like it's pushing like low dollar items that they don't really care about. Yeah, exactly. All right, up there and then down here.
So when you've got, so say you turn off an ad, and you already mentioned that you'll reuse them over time. About how long do you wait before you start looking at reusing in that old ad?
A couple weeks, and I'll throw it on and fill it out and just see if it's like regenerated. If not, then go even longer.
Why would somebody use ROAS over cost per conversion?
Because cost per conversion like doesn't really tell you anything significant like as far as making money. It just tells you like what you're spending to make a sale, and then generally you're calculating ROAS yourself, like, right? Like you're seeing like, oh, well, I have a margin of XYZ, and so I need to figure out what profit I made from that. And so, you know, we sell a product for $200, our cost per conversion is $150. It cost me $25 to make it, so I made $25, right? Like where ROAS, you can know right away like how much money you made, and then all you have to do is look at it and know like, yep, that covers cost of good and I have a good profit margin.
So if you have something, for example, like Sugar Me Wax, it's a lead form, like we have just one lead form thing, and it leads to one product. Cost per conversion is fine, right?
Yeah,
because
perfect.
I have one conversion type. But with this, you know, to take that sleep example, if you want to scroll down again, as a good example here, he's got 2 conversions at $590 with a ROAS of 4.14 or something like that. If that same product was the average purchase price of $2,000, his ROAS is now through the roof, right? Because he has multiple products on the site, ROAS gives a better idea of not just if they're converting on something, but what is the total price that they're using to convert on that product.
So you mean like, for example, including upsells and things like
Yes.
that?
Exactly.
When you recycle old ads, will you come back and just turn on an ad set that you had previously that like had ad fatigue and just like wait a couple weeks and turn it on again?
Yeah, or even just turn on the ad. So like what we'll do in here sometimes is like I'll turn this off and I'll come back and turn one of these other ones that had a good like ROAS on it back on type deal.
So to overcome ad fatigue, you don't have to like go and make a new ad with the same ad copy from the previous ad.
Not all the time. Sometimes you will, but it's not like this is what you have to do type deal.
And keep in mind it has social data.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a nice thing. Good comments in the section might help.
Exactly.
Also, one quick thought on this. So if you start to see something drop in like, you see really good events on that, before you determine that it's ad fatigue, check the comments. Because you might be like Vivint and have some girl write some crazy nasty review, and then you just all of a sudden stop getting ad sales. Right? So you gotta go hide that comment. And then your sales pop back up again. So don't just attribute it to ad fatigue right away.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta investigate and look at all the stats and things on everything.
Ethan, so we have you guys okay if we go a little over?
Always.
Okay, so do you want to do an audit before? Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we do an audit?
No, but I can't go super over.
Okay, do you want to just do an audit right now?
Yeah, I want to show them the ads library first,
Please.
though. Okay, cool. All right, so real quick, one of the big things, like I mentioned, guys, a lot of this is an art and a science, and figuring out your creatives, like what type of copy you should write, things like that, it can be hard. And so one of the things that I do, and this is part of like the research process, is I look at, we talked about finding people in similar niche, selling a similar product, things like that, looking at their ads, but we can't always find their ads. So Facebook has something called the ad library. In here, what you can do is you can just search any like topic, name, page, things like that, and it'll show you all of their active ads and let you go to whatever pages they push to, things like that. So if we kind of clicked Juve right here, it's going to show us all the active ads that Juve has running, and then I can look and see like, okay, what copy are they using? I can see like this ad was created on October 17th. And so I'm trying to see like, what do the creatives look like? What do their copy look like? What pages are they pushing to when they click on them? And I'm kind of taking note and putting these in like a, swipe file almost, where I'm taking pictures and I'm keeping track of this so that I can go ahead and I can see like, if something's been running for a really long time, it's probably running because it's making them money, right? And so what type of image are they using? What type of video are they using? Like, is it because of like, a celebrity endorsement that it's working well, or whatever it might be? And so then I can do all that research and save myself a ton of time when I'm trying to think of like creative and things like that for my product. I can say like, oh, it looks like this person probably already tested if an image or a video works better, because all their ads are image ads. So I'm gonna start with images first because that looks like it's probably working better.
Now, if you pause it and turn it back on, which one is it going to show? Is it going to be the original starting, or is it going to show the new one?
I'm not sure. It's a great question. Sorry.
What's a long time for an ad to run that you're like, this is long for Facebook?
I mean, if things have been running for like a month plus, like that's pretty long. But if somebody's spending a lot of money, they're not going to really be able to run something for a month. So that can't be your only like indicator. So length and then volume of ads. Like if they have a lot of ads live, it's a good indicator that like they're making money from ads, or else they wouldn't be creating a ton of different ones. Yeah.
So is ad library better to like, I guess like research or see your competition, other pages, or can you actually like look up products that you're selling and see if there's ads for that?
It's going to be better, easier for your competition, but you can type in like general topics. So like, but it's not going to pop up like specific products. Like if I typed in like nunchucks right now, like it's not going to bring me like any ads, advertising nunchucks type deal. But if I figured out like, okay, here are the top sellers of nunchucks, I could type in their name, see if they have a Facebook page, and see if they're running paid traffic to it right now, right? If none of the top people are running Facebook ads to it, it's probably because it doesn't work super well on Facebook.
How would you find out the top seller of nunchucks?
Just doing some market research, man. Googling around, seeing what's on top, reading some reviews, looking at Amazon, seeing who has like the most reviews, things like that. There's no real like, here's the way that you can see anybody's sales. You just got to kind of look at social cues and things like that. Talk to people who buy like martial art material, see like, hey, what are the best brands, stuff like that. Yeah. All right. Cool, let's hop into that audit, man. So Brigham wants to do an audit of Sugar Me because it's been getting slowing down here for him.
So yeah, so when I started the Sugar Me stuff, I was getting $2 cost per leads, and I'm seeing them like as high as 10 now. And so if you go to custom columns, go and change to Dallas DM at the bottom.
You won't have it because they're account specific, yeah. So I don't want to spend a ton of time creating new custom columns right now, so I'm just going to do a performance and
clicks. Go ahead and
one.
walk through like your thought process. This is like one of the first times he's looking at this in a while. He knows the taxonomy of like each of the locations, campaign names, and then inside of that. But go ahead and like, go ahead and run that. I'd say in the past 2 months, I've really seen it dip.
Okay. Yeah, so I know the general flow of like the funnel and things on this already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at like the last trailing 7 days. That'll give me like the most realistic kind of idea. And then I might compare that to like a month earlier or 2 months earlier, like a random date range in there to just kind of give me some like benchmarks of ideas to see like have things been going up, things been going down. So these are like new campaigns, it looks like, so there's no data there. But it looks like he was running some campaigns back there. And like roughly, you know, like in August, probably averaging about like a $4 cost per lead across stuff, it looks like. And now if we go to like the last 7 days, we're averaging more of like a $9 cost per lead, probably realistically.
Yeah.
And so like it's definitely gone up, right? And so that right there gives me a few things that I can look at. So I can look at how are these currently set up, and then I can compare them to like what was previously set up. Like, are there some big differences there as far as like targeting, as far as creative, as far as what goes there, or to try and there's so many things that can drive up a cost for lead or purchase. So I'm really trying to like just narrow down like what do I think might drive this up? Is it the audiences are driving it up? Is it like he never switched out creatives? Is it that you know, the landing page needs refreshed because it's like so worn in, things like that. And then to add to it, like I know that these are local campaigns, and so you know that adds another layer of complexity of the fact that like you're going to hit high frequency numbers a lot quicker because the audiences can only be so big. So I'm going to hop into this first kind of
Promo 8 is going to have your best data.
Promo 8.
Yeah, even though it's not showing a cost per result.
Yeah, because you have multiple. Okay, cool. All right, so Promo 8 over the last 7 days, it looks like we have some ad sets that shut off, things like that. So like right here, clearly like this one has been like the best one so far, right? We got $2.88, spent a good amount of money. So I want to look at this one and see like what's going on here. So we're optimizing for conversions, which is what we want to do. He's setting a minimum spend, that's fine. He's ad scheduling, he's running off a day-parted ad schedule, which is you know, good for you because you're kind of trying to text back in real time. If you can avoid this, it's similar with a lot of stuff on Facebook. Like the more you can open up Facebook's targeting, the more data you have in, the better results you're going to get. So like I could tell you for sure, like if we turned off day parting, he would start to get cheaper cost per lead, but for his situation, he wants somebody to be able to respond right away, and so the cost per lead drop probably isn't worth the outside of kind of response window.
Is it worth testing though? Because if you can pay someone $4 an hour for a week and during off hours to test it, and your costs right now have currently doubled depending on how much you're going to get, would it ever be worth testing that? Or?
Yeah, so that's something that you just have to decide as a business owner. So it may be worth it for him, it may not. He may be able to automate like the first text, a few texts or whatnot, because I know you have like the first one automated, things like that. But so yeah, it would be something just to figure out.
It doesn't really look good when you're responding to somebody as a business at 2 a.m.
Yeah, they know it's fake. So that's the first thing that I'm looking at. Next, I'm kind of diving into his audiences. So like, what's he running here? It looks like he's running 1% lookalikes, and then he's layering that with locations, right?
Just Phoenix area.
So the biggest thing that I would do here, if I was like, oh man, it's coming in here, the biggest thing that sticks out to me is, since we are layering off of a location, these 1% lookalikes I know are like 2 million audiences. So he's starting out with potential 4 million people essentially. Let's account for some overlap because there's definitely going to be some overlap. So let's say like 3.5 million people in the whole US. And then what we're doing is we're narrowing it down even further to specific zip codes that are going to be audience shy. So what's going to happen there, and part of the reason they've probably gone up, is like that's going to give you super targeted people, but it's going to be a really small number. Because even if we just targeted only these zip codes, we would see that this drops down to probably, like, my guess would be like at a high end, like 500,000 people potentially, since there's only like, what, 4 million in the entire Phoenix metropolitan. Yeah. And so to then take 500,000 people and then layer them into a 1% lookalike, we're basically telling Facebook like, hey, we want you to find like 200 to like 2,000 people in this whole area that will be amazing. They'll be like our awesome people, but it's not gonna be sustainable. So what I would do, my first thing is I would create like 10% lookalikes off of these two audiences and throw those in first. Like they're not gonna be as tight lookalikes, but
off
they
of
will
those
be.
two lookalikes or off of the originals, the custom audiences?
You have to create them all off the custom audience. You can't create a lookalike of a lookalike. So yeah, you'd create it off the original custom audience, and you would say 10% off of them. And then that would be my first test. I would come in and put those two audiences in there. So I'm giving myself a wider base. It's not as wide as saying like women in the US or like,
broad.
yeah, it's not as broad, but it's not so narrow that you're gonna run into like potential delivery issues or like not giving Facebook room to optimize itself. So that's kind of like one of the first things that I see there. I know you've tested it in the past, not using any lookalikes and stuff, and you've seen with lookalikes it works better.
It does,
So
I mean, sometimes it would work better, and then a lot of times it wouldn't. But it might have been ad fatigue.
yeah, exactly. And it might have been, like I said, the lookalike's just too small. So like for a couple days it works really good because that's a super targeted audience, but then you've eaten up all the low-hanging fruit, and so you need to give it like a wider range to play in.
One question I had, if you scroll down, the detailed audience, I have nothing for a detailed audience, but I have expand your detailed audience. So is that just virtually doing nothing?
It's doing nothing right now because you're not using any interest targeting. Yeah, if you're using interest targeting, it'll do something, but if you're not, it's really not expanding. It's expanding nothing. 0 times 0, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing I would do. I would then also, I would personally pull off the cost control and just leave it open.
Just leave it open.
Yeah, I think you're probably having to do cost control right now because your audience is small. And so you're basically giving a cost control to outbid everybody who's trying to target the same 500 people as you. And so that's what you had to do to get initial delivery. But I think if you widen up your audience, you won't have to worry about cost control. You can just auto bid.
Okay.
And so that would be like the first thing on that. And guys, this is a good performing ad set too. Like that's our best one, and we've already found some stuff that could probably be changed on it.
Check out maybe like cherries. Those are brand new today.
Okay.
I just put those live. Maybe check out one of those. That should say sucker, not cherry. One of them should say sucker. All right, you're on the sucker one.
Cool.
Check out the ad.
Check out the ad itself.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same ad set for 1%.
Cool.
I had a candy ad that did really well, so I was just kind of going with the candy theme.
Yeah. All right, so free bikini wax for new customers. Book now, space is limited. That's right, completely. Good experience, tell your friends. If you have a good experience, tell your friends. And then we've got a sucker, huh? All right, free bikini wax. Yeah, that's good. So the biggest thing that I would recommend with your ad, just because I've seen some of them, other than rotating the image, I would also test a longer form copy, or like the same short copy, like with only like this really, and then somebody's like a testimonial from a client, and just straight under that, and then another line for a call to action, right? So you're running really short copy. What I've found just in general on Facebook is now like super short copy it's not the best performing copy. Like you don't want to go as necessarily as long as like the Juve stuff we were doing.
Yeah.
You can go like same space, but like space it out if that makes sense. Like it would take up the same space in the newsfeed, but you would format it better where there's like spaces and it's less words realistically.
Yeah.
So I would test that. I would test an image, like a stock photo of like a girl in like something that would need a wax, so maybe like a swimsuit with like a testimonial next to them, because you don't have to use like the actual customer's photo with testimonials. And then have it as a testimonial and remove free bikini wax completely from the image, but just use the testimonial, and then see, you obviously talk about the free in the copy and in your headline, things like that. You could go free bikini wax, like X remain, like women are raving about it. Call out a specific city, like free bikini waxes in Scottsdale, so that you catch people's like attention with that. I would test copy variations on a lot of your stuff, because you're hitting fatigue on it. And so like when somebody always sees like the same 2 sentences about a free bikini wax, regardless of like how the image changes, it's like, oh, it's the same ad.
Isn't that crazy? How much that does? Okay, so I'm gonna do a 10% audience. I'm gonna try some new copy. We're gonna see if that works for us.
Perfect.
Yeah. Before we give him a hand, I want to ask you guys, what did you learn today that you guys are going to take with you out of like this talk? Yeah, Adam.
So I love the direction as far as shorter is not necessarily better. You know, like when you're writing an email to an employee or something like that, or a different business, it's always like shorter is better. So I thought, that'd be better. I also liked how you use, I don't even know what it's called, like the free bikini wax, that portion, like
the header.
Yeah, how important that was to make an adjustment.
Yeah, go ahead, Spencer.
I love the visuals. I'm very visual learner. I love the mountains, jumping from Facebook to the landing page to wherever you want the customer to go, and making that a good experience, as well as learning more about the funnel and the process makes more sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, the Facebook ad library, I hadn't realized that, this is stupid, I hadn't realized it was based on by the company. So that changes like how you use it dramatically. So
Yeah.
that was cool, and then just getting more details that I hadn't understood as far as how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I learned a bit more about like the data I've collected with my own ads, and also what Ben was talking about last week. I was thinking about like kind of ditching it, moving on to something else, but now I see the value in the data I've gathered so far. From
Try to test it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Will.
I learned that you kind of just have to throw money at it and just see what happens.
You really do. Yeah, to some degree. Yeah, at least you're doing it intelligently now instead of what it was before. Guys, let's give him a round of applause.